the cloud now. And hey, future us. Hey, podcasty people. I'm just gonna put on the live for Facebook timeline as well. So I'm just hitting the button. I set this up 10 minutes ago, so this may want me to do it again. Un moment.
Un momento.
Un momento. The great thing about the recording, the live part is when we have to kind of like, hey.
Oh, okay.
The recording, we can kind of.
What's your background? My background's Spanish.
I thought it might be Spanish.
I know there's no resemblance to Jessica Alba. I wish.
That was my question. I was like, I bet you everyone's thinking that when they first meet you. It's like, is there any relation to Jessica Alba? Like,
no, I think I'd be rolling in it if I was related. Don't you think?
You could be related. Who knows? Like, it's there's not a lot of Albas out there.
Well, actually, there is. Alba is like Smith in Spain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a very common surname.
I'm going to set up the live again because it doesn't seem to like me right now.
What's your background, Chris?
Yeah, happy to answer. So, by blood, I'm mostly Chinese.
Okay.
Culturally, there's a lot. Yeah. All right, hang on 2 secs.
And you don't necessarily fit into the bucket of the standard Chinese with all the love that you show and the emotion and the
exactly inside
all the energy that you exude isn't in line with a lot of the, I guess, Chinese people I've met. But then I've met a few that I've worked with in the past that in the new generation are very loving, are very like in touch with their emotions.
Oh, love that. Well, I think our generation has the best opportunity to be so full in terms of emotional EQ.
100%. I think our generation are here to break the barriers of the old trauma.
Agreed.
And the old wounds of our family lineage. I recently had a healing, and all of the feminine wounds came up for me. And yeah, it was all about
Pause that. We're just about to go live. And
okay.
It looks like it's about a 7-second load up. So I would love to hear that though. So let's table it because I want to we can talk anything. So, all right, we are officially live. So I'll do a quick check as well on. Yep, I'll do a quick check on here as well. But yeah. Like this is bonus time. The first 3 minutes is like bonus time. So get your deep questions in now. Like, what's the meaning of life, Chris?
Do we say hola to everybody? Or?
We can say hola. Hola to those who are watching on replay. And the sound is good. There's already 2 viewers. So for those who are watching on live, appreciating you. #live crew. We'd love to see your name pop up. We respond to every comment as well. Hi. Let's jump in, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready. As ready as I'll ever be.
So for all those who are tuning in now, thank you so much for viewing. It is such my honor and privilege to have Melisa Alba on the Chris Masters Experience. This is Coaches on Coaches, and no holds bar, open conversation for the next 2.5 hours. We're expecting till about 11 our time, Melbourne time. But yeah, we met through, we're co-authors in Inspired Connections by Crystal Hill Publishing.
Yes.
So we're gonna talk about that.
We're definitely gonna unpack a lot about that, I think. After reading your chapter on Monday night, I definitely think it's important that we do. Yes,
we can talk about anything on my chapter, and yeah, I'd love to ask some questions on yours as well. So this is a cross interview format, so please feel free to jump in. There's no friction whatsoever if you and I interrupt each other, and I'd love it. Like if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in and just like ask me anything.
I most certainly will.
And first off, I'd love to open with like Melisa Alba, who are you?
It's funny when I watched back the brief of the introduction to working with Crystal a few weeks ago that I did. I kind of fumbled when I got asked the question as to who am I? I think that's such a big question.
Such a big question.
And I would probably start off by saying, yeah, I am a healer. Yes. And it is something that I think I've always been. But it's only in the last few years that I really have gotten all of the tools to really be able to dive deep into assisting people in healing themselves. So the healings that I do, they are actually self-directive healing, which is a company I recently did a modality with late last year. Actually, I completed everything. But basically what they do and what I do is I help people heal themselves and help people move energy that's trapped in their bodies through emotional release. So, as you know, being a coach yourself and having healed yourself and worked through, a lot of your own past traumas, anything that we experience, whether or not it be from an inner child, whether or not it be through, separation or anything that might have happened that's traumatic in our lives, if we don't deal with it, basically those emotions get stored in our bodies and we continue to live life in a situation where we don't necessarily know that we're acting out and having certain behavioral issues and things like that in our lives on a daily basis. So the long and the short is I'm a healer that helps people heal themselves.
I love that. Well summed. And I know emotions is energy in motion, and oftentimes past traumas are literally trapped in parts of our bodies. So where we have tensions, that's why sometimes when we get a massage, we would just start to have these emotional releases and cry or think about certain things in the past that we haven't thought about in ages.
Yeah.
Because these are trapped emotions in our body. So I love how you summed up what self-healing is. As the coach,
a lot more to it that I could probably unpack on, but
absolutely, yeah.
And we can unpack that later if you like.
We can, yeah. Tell us what got you into it? Like, what was like that defining moment where you were like, oh, my past life was this, and now I'm doing this?
Well, I guess you could probably say a lot of different trauma in my life that had happened. So how long have we got? Only 2.5 hours?
That's why I leave 4 hours. I mean, it's totally
okay, I see now. I see why people go up to 4 hours. Truly, I think I was one of those people that had just so many different things happen in my life from such a young age, from, being my mum and dad separating and them being in a domestic violent relationship from a very young age of 4 to, I guess having to run and hide from my dad at one point when I was young, just due to the fact that he was quite violent towards my mother and not really knowing what would happen to me. And the safety was quite a concern at the time. And then if you do happen to read the
sharing vulnerably and open,
yeah, that's okay. I, had my auntie that had committed suicide at a really young age as well. And that created a lot of extra trauma. And I guess that was where I first became an empath and understanding that people really needed to lean on me at a really young age for emotional support.
You were 8 years old at the time, right?
I was 8 years old.
Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah.
And then, there was just a multitude of different things throughout my life that had happened after that, within my family, within friend circles, within relationships as I got older. And I'm happy to kind of go into all of that. But basically, the reason why I ended up doing the course was, I had seen psychologists, I'd gone to Tony Robbins, I had had life coaches. I had seen kinesiologists, I'd seen healers as well. But self-directive healing basically is a modality where it teaches you how to heal yourself.
Yes.
It helps you teach others how to heal themselves. And for me, that was so empowering because I was leaning on other people in the past. Yes. I was looking externally for other people to help me. And when you are given the tools to learn how to unpack the different layers within yourself you know, and the emotional trauma that you've had trapped in your body. It's incredible just how many years you can actually hold trauma for in your body.
I love that. I so resonate with that, especially in the coaching space and the spiritual space. So, I share with you my audience literally is
Yeah,
coaches, it's creatives, it's people in the spiritual space.
I love that.
So like, yeah, straight away, like you just, what you're wearing, which is, tie dye and like very comfortable and having a plant on the side. I'm like, all right, synchronicity, and you totally get it. I'm overdressed for this. Like this is more comfortable than usual.
Not at
Uh,
all.
yeah. So when you talk about self-healing, I've had 3 years of training at the Coaching Institute, which draws a lot from Tony Robbins. Like literally, it's like Sharon Pearson's like Tony Robbins just rebranded it on her, like her thing. And relationship coaching from there is drawing from Gottman Institute. So when you talk about healing, it's like, yeah, we don't ever really heal someone else. We hold space for them to
Yeah,
heal themselves.
yeah.
And that's a really important reframe. Some people, when people talk about healing, it's never us healing someone else. We're holding space for them to heal themselves.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's so true. Um,
Mm.
in the case of where I'm holding the space for other people, throughout the healings that I do, it's very much so a combination of, yes, spiritual, but equally a little bit scientific, because it's actually measurable. So we do testing before and after to see where they've had shifts.
Yeah.
And people can actually see that it's something tangible, where sometimes, I'm into Ashanti healings, and, I've been able to go back to
What is
life.
Ashanti healings?
So essentially, you lay down, and a healer will, one of the healers that I've seen in the past, she's Greek, and she's amazing. Marianne is her name. Love you, Marianne. She was the first person, I think, that really brought this to my attention, that one, I had this ability within me, just this natural intuition and ability to tap into other people's emotions and really be vulnerable with that person and have compassion and empathy and sit with them and feel what they're feeling.
Yes.
Really feel it.
Mm.
And basically what she did is she kind of lays you down and just kind of hovers over you to feel your energy and gets a sense. But she also does mediumship. So she has some beautiful abilities, natural abilities that, you can't be taught that.
Yeah.
But basically she does take you through life regression and helps you actually get the energy out of your body by hovering over your body and at different points touching different parts of your body where the energy is actually trapped.
Love that. I want to meet her already. That's a modality.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
So I'm curious, and at some point I'm gonna start going, let's play the 7-question game. So you can it's kind of like the 21 questions, but we
Okay.
take turns asking a big questions. There's no small questions, only big questions.
Okay. Yeah.
And that way we can start taking turns as well. But I am curious. I'm curious before we go there. Have you ever done human design?
I actually have a friend who does human design.
Yep.
And I've had my human design done. And now that I've, pardon?
You had a reading?
I've had a reading. Yeah, yeah.
Because you talk about being an empath, and I'm so curious how many open centers you have in your design. Because
I actually have, I'd like to see if I even have it. She did send it to me. Now I can't think of it. I think I'm a projector.
Projector? Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what I am. I almost can't remember entirely.
We can have a look at it at some point.
Yeah, I feel like I want to look at it, but at the same time, I want to be here present with you.
Yeah. We'll save it. We'll save it. That's one of my things, one of my modalities that I do. And
do you?
yeah, so
I love that. Okay.
when bit of a story.
It's so interesting.
It's so fascinating. I love how it's one of the most validating gifts we can give ourselves, and just really life affirming as well. And this was everyone that I speak to, that it's so validating. And I could look at someone's chart, and literally all I need to know is their date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth. And it's like having a blueprint of their life. Like, oh my gosh, like this is, quote unquote, like your soul's purpose. We get to the incarnation cross. We're like, okay, this is the one message that human design has for you. It's the art of simplification. It's the science of differentiation. So everything's simplified in the sense that you got one message, you got one strategy, you got one inner authority, which is a core driver. And when you get to the incarnation cross, it's just like, okay, wow, like that's, you can read that at any different stage of your life and it'll give you a different meaning because you have grown.
Yeah.
And
What's
so
yours?
I am a 5-1 progenitor. So a
Okay.
5-1 being an investigator heretic.
Yeah.
So I'm a truth teller, truth seeker.
Okay.
My energy centers, I'm sacrally driven, which is very similar, common for a lot of generators,
Yep.
which you may know is already 70% of the population. But my open centers, it's I have two defined centers, which is my sacral as well as right here. So it's like the G center, or you can call it. I'm forgetting right now the one word.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Yeah, you're all good. But yeah, I have 7 open centers. So that for me is just like, oh, this is the graph that basically explains to me why I feel so empathic. Like that's so I'm because of, this is my long way of saying I'm curious to see yours because I wonder how many open centers you have. So I
Well,
imagine a
when I
lot.
find it, I'll send it to you.
Please,
It'll
yeah.
be interesting to see if it's when you put your birth date and the birth time
Yep.
into something. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where you were born? Yeah. Because I've also had my horoscope and understanding what my rising sun and my rising moon is and things like that. And I have it all written down somewhere. I just can't think of it in this very moment.
Yeah. Horoscopes is fascinating. I have not explored horoscopes much, but it's
Okay.
fascinating because like human design covers so many things. It's 7 different practices in one. It's got I
Yeah.
Ching, Qigong, Kabbalah, the yogic chakras. So that's the energy centers, as well as astrology. So
Oh, okay.
when you have that many layers, it goes on. That is a whole
It
7 years.
helps you really understand a little bit more about why you are the way you are, really, and having that is it's really interesting, especially for people that have gone their whole life without really knowing fundamentally who they are.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the words of Ra, like, it's empirical. So he often says, don't believe anything I say, just experiment it for yourself. And
Yeah.
when you look at it, you're like, like 99% of people that are part of the human design group that I'm in, Eric group of wonderment, this is shout out to Eric Bergen, who's my human design mentor. You're just like, yeah, I can personally speak. Like, there's about 7 times where I looked at my design and I'm like, this is explaining what's happening in my life right now. So,
There you go.
hi. 7 questions. All
Okay.
right, let's play. So, kind of like 21 questions, but yeah, you can ask me anything and only big questions only. So, and we'll take turns.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, I think that one of the questions I have, and thank you for sharing about you, equally doing human design, was from my understanding, your background is coaching, and relationship coaching, and now human design. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Equally, you're an actor.
I'm an actor too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also coach in acting.
All of these points we can like unpack. So yeah.
Yeah, so you've got lots of different elements and lots of different
Yeah.
different things that you are working on, right?
Yeah, there is a journey from that. So I've been in the film industry, film and TV for 17 years now, as a working actor for 12. So
Wow.
yeah, the dream, you can do the math now and figure out how old I am. I've told you already.
Yeah.
But when I was 16 when that seed was planted in me. It sounds cliche, but I fell in love with acting, and so it was a calling. Like I didn't seek it out; it found me. And it was at a bludge class in high school. Like a best friend of mine was like, "Hey, come do theater studies with me. We're gonna hang out. It's gonna be an easy A. Like it's gonna be fun." I was like, "Yeah." So I just did it just to hang out with my mate, and really fell in love with it. Like there was, it's literature in body, it's storytelling, it's reflecting on a societal as well as an individual level, humanity. So it's in that way I was like, oh, yeah, I told myself I could do this forever, and legit, it was an early strategy to say I'm gonna do this as a lifetime career. And so the
What do you
flags.
love about it?
Hey,
What do you love about it so much?
acting is the reflection of it's the finest, most exquisite form of art, because we're using our entire body, our mind, body, spirits, and we're literally presenting ourselves like our soul on stage, and we're emphasizing or de-emphasizing parts of ourselves to tell the story of the character. When it comes to film is the most exquisite form of art, where it's the only art form where it's a beautiful collaboration of different artists coming together, and it's the only art form where everyone gets credited at the end.
Yeah,
you'll
true.
have credits. Painting, you might not even know who the person providing the canvas is or the paintbrush.
You just get to be really creative, right?
Yeah,
And expressive.
Where the set designers, the costumes, the actors, cast and crew, even the caterers are all credited. Like, you have credits and everyone is named on it. Like, this is the only form of art that is that level of collaboration.
Everybody's acknowledged.
Everyone's acknowledged. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And so equally with your coaching, how many pillars are there to your coaching?
Wonderful. So all right, I'm going to ask you the same question because I know you have an answer for that. So the journey has been this, where about year 6 or 7 in my acting career, I had a mentor who was phenomenal, and he did 20 years in LA, 3 years with Stella Adler herself. She's a foremother of acting. And after doing 2.5, 3 years with him, I was like, I don't know who I can find as a mentor. It's very hard to find a mentor after him. And so for me, it was like the only way I can grow is to start to coach actors. So as a sideline, I started coaching actors. I coached about 100 actors before.
Wow.
Before I transitioned to, all right, I wanted to like holistic, just everything coaching as well.
Yeah.
And that's when I found the Coaching Institute. So at about 100, that's also the point when I found the most common problems that I didn't have the tools to solve yet, were financial problems and personal problems that a lot of actors came with. Like, the classic journey of actors, are like, we are seeking to be seen. We're looking for like attention, to finding the craft and becoming really good at it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I get massive credit to Tony Robbins too, because I remember watching. This was a defining moment. I watched Tony Robbins' "I'm Not Your Guru."
Oh yes, amazing. Yeah.
Like, I remember watching it, just going,
Your brain.
And I remember thinking, my dreams of winning an Oscar as one of the first Asian actors, Asian American, Asian Australian actors to win an Oscar, is that small compared to the impact that Tony Robbins was creating, like saving lives, helping change lives, making massive positive impact. And so Tony Robbins really helped me to dream much bigger.
And expand from just coaching in the actor space and taking it into a space where you're kind of working with people one-on-one and coaching in relationships and things like that.
Yeah. So the relationship aspect came in. I think I really owned it after doing a 5-day emotional intimacy course.
Emotional intimacy course.
Yeah, which is a lot of emotional intelligence, but it draws a lot from Gottman Institute, which is the #1 institute for relationships and sexuality. So, and from that, I could just go, wait a second. Ever since I was like 14 to 16 in like school, back then even, I was the guy who wasn't in a relationship, but also was giving the best advice for a relationship. People will come to me and go, hey, Chris, like, what do you think about this situation, this relationship that I'm in? And I was like Dr. Love back in high school. I'd be the one going, well,
Dr. Love,
here's what's happening, So I fast forward to today. I've shared in my book, in my chapter, literally, I lost my former love of my life 10 years ago now. And then I went through a 1.5 years of grief. And in that time, I found 2 beliefs that really helped save me from suffering. And that was, life's too long to stay in pain, and that there are multiple loves of life. There's multiple soulmates. Which then, there was that grief period, which is kind of limbo for me. And then there was a period of bad dating to learning open relating and learning poly. And so fast forward to today, this is where I am. The core of me, I'm calling in, I'm attracting lifelong love.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the meantime, I'm very much open relating and polyamorous.
Yeah, I read that in your book. So I guess if you don't mind me asking, because you just kind of touched on something, and I did read it in your chapter, but obviously I didn't have the opportunity to ask you the question. When you say you lost the love of your life, in what capacity? Was it a relationship that just ended and you went separate ways, or was it a relation that had she passed on? What do you mean by that?
Fantastic. Yeah. And I resonate with I think your first chapter, your first paragraph in your chapter, you talk about how moving on from a relationship, a breakup is the equivalent to a death in a family. I believe that there is that equal gravitas, especially when it's a big, big relationship.
Yeah,
So mine,
the
we were
grief.
married at heart. It was a 3-year, 10-day relationship, but an eternity within itself. And I I became part of this big Italian family. We both have big families.
Yeah.
Like I come from this huge like 60 plus Asian family. Like
Wow.
yep. And then she's from this big Italian family. So every week would be baptisms, birthdays, all it's very Italian, very Italian. And you know, like we were so close. When I met her parents, it was for her, she said, Chris, I've never brought a boyfriend home to meet my parents. If you meet my parents, this is it. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready for it. Like, so for us, it was very much married at heart. I saw kids, I saw grandkids with her. Like that's how deep, and that's how many dreams and things I had to let go
Yeah.
in the relationship. So she and I built each other. She's still alive. Like
Okay.
we had a breakup, and it's so this is not in the book, and I'll probably share this in the full like book that I'll release later this year. But yeah, it's kind of like there's a sprinkling kind of epilogue moment where it's like I check in and it's January 2023, and you know like yeah, she's had 2 kids now, and you know
Oh,
she's
wow.
happily married, and you know I wish her all the best, and I send all my just unconditional heartfelt love to that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because
Mm.
I understand, when something is so painful and you go through such a process of grieving a loss, that you know sometimes time heals the wounds, and then sometimes no matter how much time passes, even speaking of that person, the wound
Mm.
still, you know still as if it was yesterday. So I hope I didn't touch on anything
Not,
too
I,
harsh there.
not at all. I've done
I
the
was just
work.
curious because of your languaging around that. I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that. And, we've got an audience. So I thought
Yeah,
equally, if they're listening, they might be just as curious as I am to
I'm,
understand what you meant by that.
I'm glad you asked, and I've done the work, and I'm happy to talk about it. And yeah, in the full book, it'd be a surprise where you read at the end, you're like, oh, you realize that, oh, they're still alive, and it's a beautiful
Amazing
revelation.
that you've got a book coming out as well. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's amazing that you and I are both in. This is our first book that's coming out with Inspired Connections.
Yes.
So I want to celebrate you for being the youngest person in the book.
Thank
Like
you.
it's awesome. It's rude to ask age. I know your age already. Like,
Yeah.
how old are you?
33.
33?
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's such an honor and privilege to be in a room full of wise women. There's 17 authors, 16 or 17.
Yeah, and you're the only male. Well done.
Yeah, only male-bodied individual. Yeah, so thank you. I'm gonna ask you the same question. So, like, first off, I want to know what your 4 pillars are in terms of if there's 4 pillars, whatever number of pillars in
Yeah.
your coaching, um, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So I answered the question at the beginning to say I'm a healer, which I am. But I'm also a property coach.
Yes.
I help people basically purchase investment properties and help them build their investment property portfolio so that they can, create a passive income through their portfolio and look to retire early. And I help them basically buy a property interstate around Australia.
Amazing.
And yeah, I absolutely love what I do. I've worked in different realms of property. I've worked in building and development, and in the back end as well, in terms of marketing and putting together different campaigns to target different
Amazing.
audiences and things like that. But my most favorite space to work in property is actually helping people on a daily basis achieve their dreams and their goals.
I was gonna say I've seen your interview with Crystal as well. So yeah, I was just like,
yeah,
you're making people's property dreams come true. So
yeah. And I genuinely, I think that what I love being in is in a place of service. Like I love helping people in whatever capacity it might be. So whether or not it's helping them buy property, whether or not it's helping them heal themselves, I just like helping people better themselves or achieve their goal.
Fully resonate. I believe that service is everything. Service is
100%.
everything. And all we have to do is look after the people that we're getting to know and the people that we're serving already.
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
in business terms, that your leads and your lag, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I've read that book. I can't think of what that book's called right now, but I read that 7 Disciples of something. Is that book?
Could be. I learned this from my business mentor. So
yeah. My brain's not working as it usually would. It is, 8:30 past 8:30. It's been a long day of meetings that I've had already, so my brain's just not quite where it would be. With this was 8:30 a.m. Different stories.
I think you could be mentioning 7 Principles of Success, but there's a lot of books. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Boom.
I don't know what I said. I said something completely different to that. All I got was 7.
Yeah. I got you. I got you.
Yeah. When you said the measures and the lags, that's just what resonated for me. But yeah, to answer your question, going back to answering your question, because I tend to do that, I go off topic. So if I go off, bring me back. It's okay. You have full permission.
This is long form. We can tangent off as much as you want and come back, whatever.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just go on a tangent, and then the listeners will be like, "What is she going on about?" I tend to do that.
No, it's all good.
So one pillar is obviously property coach. Another pillar that I touched on earlier is healing and a healer. And another one that I'm actually going to be starting at the end of this month, which I'm so excited about.
Tell me more.
I'm going to be studying with Michaela Boehm. I don't know if you know who she is.
Michaela, I know her. She is Michaela Broom. I pronounce it Broom.
Is that?
I could be wrong. Yeah.
As in
Broom. She is my role models in life, and they're not fully liked by the public right now, but they're amazing. And it's Will Smith and Jada, and Michaela is dear friends and their relationship coach.
Okay, well then I feel really bad that I've just pronounced her surname incorrectly.
I don't think she minds.
Thanks for the correction.
I've done a workshop with her.
Oh, you have? I have too. She's amazing, isn't she?
She's amazing.
Did you do the embodiment movement?
Yes, I believe I think it was a 3-day workshop.
Oh, okay.
In Abbotsford in Victoria.
Oh, so, amazing. I wanted to go to one of her retreats, just that she just had this last weekend, but the timing just wasn't right for me. But yeah, basically I'll be studying with her at the end of the month.
What's the program? What are you doing with her?
So basically, there's a embodiment, somatic and tantra therapy. So it's a bit more of a long version in terms of the actual name of the course, but you get the gist of it when I say that. Right. But I'm really excited to study with her because basically a few years ago, and I have to, I guess, tell this story to bring the avenue as to where and how I've gone from working as a property coach. And I've been in that space for 13 years to now coming down this avenue. Basically a few years ago, I had a cyst erupt on my ovaries. I have polycystic ovaries.
Erupt.
A cyst, yeah.
Gotcha.
I had to have emergency surgery. I've got a lot of issues in terms of, with my female reproductive system. So I've got endometriosis and polycystic ovaries. And a few years ago, I had a cyst erupt on my ovary, which is extremely painful. But I nearly lost my ovary. I was forced to be on bed rest. And, I'd only just kind of met my partner at the time, Ryan, who I speak about in the book, is my inspired connection.
Yeah.
And long story short, I was forced to sit down and do nothing. And I find that really hard to do. really, really hard to do. I'm a doer,
Powerhouse.
goer.
Yeah.
I just have a million things going on at any given time. And it just so happened that I was watching a Netflix special with Michaela and Gwyneth Paltrow on Sex
Goop.
Love Goop.
Yeah. I know it.
And I was watching that and something just like channeled within me. And I was just like, oh my God, like, where has this been my whole life? I want to know more about this world. I want to delve into it. I want to unpack it and see all the layers and
This
just,
feels like 2021.
this was 2021.
Boom. Okay. Yeah.
It was 2021.
Yeah.
And I also at that time, because I just had the surgery, I'd spoken to my professor and I was 2 weeks short from actually getting injections to start doing IVF, egg retrieval. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily IVF where I go to start the process of having a baby, but to actually start the process of egg retrieval. And if I hadn't have had that surgery, I don't know if I would be here, because basically I was told that I was very high risk. Yeah. And that if I had have had those injections, that it would have overstimulated my ovaries even more. And I'd already had, you go.
To be clear, you didn't go through with it, right? You didn't.
I didn't end up having it because I had the emergency surgery 2 weeks prior.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, I was told, you know, if you would have these injections, Mel, basically, you know, you'll overstimulate your ovaries again, and you already had a lot of blood loss. My ovary had torsion, so it was twisted. I nearly lost my ovary as well because there was no blood supply going to it. Yeah. And so they said to me, you know, it's up to you, but basically, if you do go down that avenue, you know, you run the risk of the same thing happening again, if not worse. So our recommendation from a professional perspective would probably be not to go down that avenue and just see what happens with your body in the future if you can or can't have children. Obviously, with your conditions, your opportunities are lessened and lessened. But yeah, there's probably no reason to go down that avenue. So watching that show, I
wanted to acknowledge what a journey that has been too. And I can't imagine what like the emotional roller coaster you had to go through in the process. And yeah, my heart goes out to you. Like it's an experience that I will not feel within my own body, but like just hearing it sounds like such a roller coaster. And yeah, championing you for making it through. And
yeah, thank you. I mean, I had a lot of support. I had my mom, I had my partner. My mum was washing me, my partner was feeding me. Beautiful, beautiful humans I have around me to help me. But basically, because I was on bed rest, I was able to watch that show, and then I was able to kind of try and use that moment. I was working with my life coach, Sam Bowker, who's in the book, who introduced me to Crystal to be a part of this amazing opportunity. Yes, shout out to Sam. I love you so much. You're amazing. Basically, I was having to change my mindset, this identity of who I thought I was and who I was going to be. Yes, I'm a property coach. You know, one day I want to be a mum. One day I want to do this. All of a sudden, I had to drop that identity. I was in that moment told the likelihood of you becoming a mother is very slim. Yeah. So then I had to sit there for 3 weeks and think about what my new identity was going to be. And in that moment, I thought, okay, what am I passionate about? What moves my soul? How can I help people? You know, and we were coming at the tail end of COVID as well.
Yes.
So there was all of those people that were stuck in lockdown with their children and their families. You know, I had the year prior, I'd come out of a really toxic relationship that had also been in lockdown the year prior. Yes. And I'd just seen a lot of different elements of different relationships and different things that were happening within the world, really. And I wanted to be able to find what I could do moving forward. So basically, the next thing I'm doing, which is helping me study now, is that I'm going to be launching a third pillar to my business where I actually help couples and going to be coming and doing couples retreats. And it's going to be all about healing themselves as individuals and then healing themselves, them as a couple together, but creating a really beautiful synergy, picking up that communication, the connection, and really working with the feminine and the masculine and the masculine and the feminine, and just trying to bring that blend and having people tap into both sides.
Such needed work. Such needed
Yeah.
work
So it's hard
everyone
work.
has masculine and feminine, as we know in Tantra.
100%. It's
Yeah.
going to be deep work, Chris. And I would love for you to be a part of it in some capacity. I feel like the synergy in terms of
those exact words from my mouth. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I feel the synergy as well, and I see the relationship coach in you, because when you've gone through a lot in terms of your own relationship work and your own inner work to come to where you are, you can't help but want to help other people with that. So
100%.
yeah.
100%.
And I love the couples retreat. I'm happy to help in whatever way, shape, or form.
It's going to be hard work for those that are going to come, but they're going to have a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think we see each other in terms of, and I want to explore. This is what I feel like from a lot of these like podcasts. It's also like a jumping off point where you're like, oh, how can we help each other? How can we co-create something together? So yeah, I would love to explore the modalities that you've learned, but also like I've got years in terms of what I do in terms of relationship coaching as well. So and it was just I worked as a generalist and then into leadership, bit of wealth and abundance, and now relationship really is what my jam is. Like I really love working with people, like helping the inner world, but like the first relationship we look after is our relationship with ourselves.
100%.
And then from there, and from that place of abundance that overflows, where we actually can meet someone else and love someone else like fully after we fully love ourselves.
I don't think you actually can. I think people that have the mentality that don't have that, well, not the mentality, it's the wrong languaging. People that don't have the connection with themselves, don't have that level of tapping into their intuition and understanding, for that morning when they wake up, how do I feel today? Where am I at? Where's my energy? What am I bringing today? If they're not able to recognize within themselves where they're at, then they're kind of just going through life on autopilot.
That's it.
And they're showing up to work. They're showing up, as a parent. They're showing up as a son or a daughter or whatever in a limbo state, really.
And talking about those roles, so because we have all these different roles to ourselves too. Have you done internal family systems?
I have, when I did Tony Robbins. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, beautiful. Yeah. So then, like I love the question of who are you, because the people who are consciously aware and do the work, and you can clearly define. You can literally talk about, I'm a healer. I've been a property coach. I'm moving into relationship and somatic work. Like that's like I love that it's so clearly defined. One of the interviews that I've done, I literally asked, "Who are you?" and just kept it open, and she was like, "Well, I'm," and her answer was beautiful, like beautifully clear. She said, "I am a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a coach." And then she would expand from those, and you're just like, like the clarity that we have when we know our parts. It's.
I want to touch on that though.
Please.
Because that was the exact part of what, like, I guess our identity. We are, I believe we are all souls just having a human experience. And I
agree. You read my chapter.
Yeah, I think I wrote that in my chapter too. So
I love that.
And I saw you need to feel to heal. Like I wrote that too. So we really have synergy.
Yeah.
The reason why I want to just touch on that while you're talking about that is because that's basically what I was just trying to explain before, that I had this identity in my mind that what I thought I was going to be and what I thought I was going to do. And then all of a sudden when I came to realize that, oh my God, like all of these things that I thought I was going to be, I may not be able to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I then, I guess, became attached to a new identity, which was the identity of how Restoration Retreat was built, which is my business. Yes. And I actually thought of it sitting on the couch watching Goop.
I love that. So
I got a big, I've got it over there. I can pull it over if you wanted me to. It's basically just like a big whiteboard with, the sheets of paper. And I just wrote out my business plan, while I still had stitches in me from my emergency surgery. And I just
you can't just say I could pull it out and not pull it out. So you get I would love to see it. I'm the same with my vision board. Like if anyone's like, I'm currently
Well,
zooming
this is my
on.
vision board, funnily enough.
There we go. What? Let's have a look.
That's my vision board. That there.
So good.
Oh, it's fallen. Sorry. That there is my mission statement from Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins.
Oh, I love that you did Date with Destiny.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But yeah, this is, if I pull it up.
You're so TR fan.
Sorry?
You're so Tony Robbins family.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone through the same process. It's amazing.
This is what I did.
Restoration retreat. I dig it. Oh.
Yeah. So couples, outdoor activity, accommodation, connection, therapy, entertainment, health, food, cooking classes, you know,
Oof.
boxes of toys for them when they go back to their rooms, things like that.
I'm in. I'm in. How can I serve and support? I'm in.
Yes.
I should mention while you're setting back up. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
I very much practice surrender. I read this wonderful book called Surrender Experiment, which I highly like. I cannot recommend enough. Have you heard of it?
Surrender experiments?
Yeah.
No,
There's,
I haven't actually.
so Michael A. Singer, and
Actually, I've heard him. Maybe I have.
You might have. He's big in terms of the spirituality space. So
Yeah.
you can find he's got a program in Mind Valley, which I
sorry. Yes, I have. I actually did one of his workshops last year.
Amazing. Yeah.
Sorry.
Probably done the same one I did. So
you know when you just have done so many different things,
and
you can't always remember everything. Yeah, I have. I've done.
Yeah.
And
talked about the 4 manifesto frames as well.
He's got really curly hair, curly hair.
He's either shaved head or curly hair. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Michael A. Singer. So yeah, in a room full of CEOs, I believe the founder of Mind Valley, Vision Lakiyami, he asked them, what's the book that you guys are all reading, and the #1 book that came out was The Surrender Experiment, and that whole practice of just literally that it's my theme in the book, where you just say yes, you set an intention, and you just see what happens. You let the universe, it just surrender to the universe.
You manifest.
Yeah, and that's the highest level manifestation. It's childlike wonderment. It's just saying, God, source, universe gives you something, you go, yes. Let's.
Well, it's like this opportunity with you that you gave me. I already had Snoop Dogg locked in, but your opportunity came up, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. So I want to celebrate and champion you for this. Like for those who are watching right now, you don't know the level of sacrifice that Melissa did for this. And when I heard it, I was so blown away. I was like, I think I did a voice note to you. I was like, if I were you, I would not do that. I would go to the Snoop Dogg event. But thank you so much for you literally moved a Snoop Dogg. I'm pretty sure you'll see him eventually as well. Like, it's the way it goes. But
I didn't want to miss out on this opportunity because there was something about just about like even how I knew you had previously worked with Crystal, and obviously I know that you're working here with her again in this book, and you had mentioned that you have all these different pillars of coaching that you're doing, and equally that you're doing this as well as podcast, which is amazing. So well done. But I just thought, I want to be able to collaborate with someone like you who is open-minded, who is transparent, who is working in so many different avenues, but really your sole purpose I can see is to serve. Yes. And you can see that it's really authentic, and I only like working with those that have that level of authenticity to them.
Thank you. I feel like your journey resonates a lot with mine, and there's a lot of parallels in that. I think it's probably metadynamics, which draws a lot from Tony Robbins' life mastery, and it's we do the highest purpose statements. So I, Chris Masters Mah, see, hear, feel, and know that my highest purpose is to move beautiful souls, to create massive positive impacts, and to ultimately.
I feel like I should just look down there and I know what mine
serve the human family. Yeah. So, do you have yours?
Mine is. I'll tell you what mine is. It says, my life purpose is to be a healer, to enjoy life, have passion, be joyful, be compassionate, show love to myself and to others, be grateful and centered to my soul.
Ah, gorgeous. Yeah, beautiful.
I
Yeah.
just thought I'd share while you were sharing.
Yeah, well, you did Date with Destiny, so I know you have that in you. So,
Yeah, yeah.
ooh. Um, I could share on my journey with Crystal. Like I have so much love
I'd love
for
to.
Crystal Hill. So yeah, I imagine you're pretty curious on that journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So first impressions count. I've shared the story multiple times with people that I've met that, oh, I was like, how do you know Crystal? But I see her as a goddess in some level because the first time I met her was at a temple space and she was facilitating it. And it was a mini temple. It was at Confest, which is back this year. So I'm very excited to do Confest. It's like my yearly dip my soul back into just
What
beautiful.
is Confess? I'm curious.
Yeah. Confest is,
Particularly people that are listening.
yeah, thank you for asking. Confest is a little piece of heaven on earth. It happens on Easter. It's like this magic bubble. It started in the 1960s with the hippie revolution,
Okay.
and it's completely volunteer run. So if you go in and you just volunteer your time, I normally volunteer like 20 to 40 hours. The whole event is free. Otherwise, it's cheap as chips because it's $150 and for 5
I
days.
thought that saying cheap as chips.
Yeah, so Aussie, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it really, if you Google Confest, you will see an image of just naked people, like the nudist village.
Oh, so Confest.
So Confest stands for conference festival.
Okay.
And you can learn pretty much anything there.
So is everybody naked there?
No, so there's so it's famous for that.
That's why you think she's a goddess.
It's famous and infamous. I met her with clothes on for sure.
Okay.
But it wasn't.
Goddess. She is a goddess.
She is a goddess. It was a
naked
temple
even more
space.
so. Yeah.
So it was really tantra. It was very much honoring the divine feminine and divine masculine in the space.
Beautiful, beautiful.
In simple terms. And whatever happens in the space stays in the space. So the nudist village is a small village within the arts village, which is a thing. But really, conference festival is like it's heaven on earth because you can literally learn anything. There's a big chalkboard, and you can. I've gone there and I put my name there and I would teach some acting. I intend to teach some acting again this time around and probably some coaching. But you can learn anything. Like I've seen from permaculture to the strangest thing that I've seen was probably constructing. Like people were cementing, how to create cement. And so we'd walk by, it's a real hippie festival, right? And just these guys are like churning like cement. You're like, wait, you can learn concrete here. That's I rocked up to support a friend's Meisner class. He was going to teach Meisner. It's a form of acting. And he was a no-show. But then the person who took his place was a palm reader. And so I like one time just stumbled on it and they taught palm reading. So anything you can imagine, you can probably learn there.
Wow.
It's a beautiful
I was
thing.
not expecting that.
Yeah. So
I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that.
it's there's no amplified music, but there is a lot of drums. There's a fire tribe. There's
fun.
There's mudding, like just whatever you can think of, it's there.
And when is it?
This year I believe it's Easter. It's every Easter.
Easter.
Yeah. So April.
I might have to come.
You might have to.
Yeah. So I love the fire ceremony and the drumming, and I recently well actually it wasn't recent, it was last year now. I'm losing track of time. It's going so quickly. We're in March already. Crazy.
We're in March. Yeah.
I went to Happy Buddha last year, which is a retreat down south near the Blue Mountains.
Amazing. And, I used to live near the Blue Mountains. What is Happy Buddha?
Happy Buddha is a retreat, a yoga retreat, and equally, yeah, they do equally have plant food, and they also have people come in that do the drumming, and you can have massages there, and you can go on nature walks, or you can just do nothing and chill and journal or whatever, but predominantly a yoga retreat. And I absolutely loved it. And the drumming ceremony was just, my inner child was like, oh my God, let's dance.
If you love that, if you love Happy Buddha, you will love
Yeah.
Confess. There's a lot of synergy with that too. There's massage
Oh,
tables.
Matt. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds so good. Yeah.
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 Bring Ryan. Like it. Like I've gone every single time. I'll bring a different group of friends. Like, and
Yeah.
it's just a different experience every time.
I think, I don't know if it would be his jam specifically. I think I'd probably go with a girlfriend. I feel like he'd probably be open to it, but
Bring a
yeah,
girlfriend
I don't know.
first.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. Like, I feel like the drumming thing, like his music is more like, rah, like he likes heavy metal sort of rock.
Heavy metal. Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like
Awesome.
jazz, I like soulful, I like R&B, I like piano, I like classical, I like an array of different genres, and his is very like head banging.
Yep. My genre is R&B, acoustic. It's very American, I know, but yeah, R&B
Yeah.
and rap. And I'm creating opportunities to work with Hamilton the musical. So it's
Oh,
hip
wow.
hop and rap is big for me. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing.
you know Hamilton.
Yes.
Have
Yeah.
you seen the musical?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it and I've
Right.
seen some bobs of it, but no, I haven't been
Yeah.
in person or anything. No.
Thank you for your excitement. It's I can say my first experience with Hamilton, I heard so much hype and I was like, ah, it can't be that good. It can't be that good. And then I
Did you
watched
also do musical theater as well, or?
I started in musical theater. So in high school, like a lot of actors and artists,
Oh,
I did
okay.
2 years of musical theaters in high school.
I
I,
actually did too, you know.
did you now?
Yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah. But
musical did
nothing
you
to the
perform in?
degree of your level, but nothing to that degree. But
You
I
don't know
just,
that. Yeah.
well, I mean, I didn't have a 14-year career after enacting and anything like that. But when I was younger, I wanted to be like J-Lo. I wanted to be the triple threat. I wanted to
Yeah.
dance, act, and sing. And bless my mother, she's so truthful and honest in her delivery. But she said, darling, you can dance, you can act, but you can't sing to save yourself.
Ooh. I I'm sorry you had to hear that. I'm very much against dream killing, so I would never say something like that. And
She did me a favor because everyone was like this when I would sing.
I can say this, like, yeah,
Mm.
if someone sings with heart, I had a best friend, like this is a best friend of 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we would go to church. This is back when I used to be very churched, and I'm now like pseudo churched.
Okay.
He would sing like he would belt, and he was tone deaf.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
it was so lovely because you know he's singing from the heart. You can just see like you can feel his heart when he's singing. And
Oh.
so I'm for singing. If someone sings in any way, even if it's tone deaf, I will celebrate and champion you.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit tone deaf. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I was high pitch.
I'm
Probably not as easy on the ear as maybe as your friend.
I'm taking that as a challenge. Next time I see you in either in person or we have like a Zoom gathering or something, we'll just put on a karaoke song or
I
something.
will dance. I will dance. Yeah, the cows come home, but in terms of singing, yeah, I probably
All right.
need to have a couple of drinks to do that.
Life goal side mission. We'll have drinks available, and I would love to hear you sing
We'll
some.
celebrate. We'll celebrate.
We'll celebrate. We'll celebrate some singing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we've gone through two questions. So
At all. Wow.
yeah, this is a fun game. It goes for a while, and then you go on tangents. You find like you go to one question, and
We
then you go on.
have, but that's okay because I feel like we've unpacked things that we probably wouldn't have if we just went via a script. I like the unscripted version.
Yeah, and you'll find that you'll go through all these like beautiful things. You get all the things that you need to share like out the way in the first 30 minutes, and then everything else is like a bonus. You're like, oh wait, like there's more, and there's that's where in acting we do that with improv, where we literally will do a scene, and you think everything is done, then you improvise, right? And
Yeah.
if you improvise, you often find in the impro, you'll find like the gems about these two characters' relationships, your scene partners' relationships. So,
I
hmm,
love that. But I equally like, I'll be really honest, like I listen to Jay Shetty, I listen to Aubrey Marcus, I listen
yeah,
to Law of Earth, and then I listen to a couple of other podcasts like Darling Shine and whatnot. And I find personally the ones that I engage with the most are the ones that don't go for a really, really long. And I've listened to Joe Rogan many
yes,
times as well.
yeah,
I find the ones that don't go for a very, very, very long time tend to get my attention the most, because I might only be in the car for a short period of time, and then if I have to re-listen to it, then I forget where I'm up to, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I've heard that argument where people are like, oh, I want to create a podcast that is 30 minutes just for like a car ride.
yeah,
And what you'll find is that a lot of people have different distances in car rides, and you
true,
can always stop and play at any time. So
very true.
it's
I'm actually going to be driving to Melbourne on Sunday for work.
are you really?
I am. So I'll
Amazing.
be in the car for like 8-9 hours. So I'll be listening to all of them.
I if you want, I can give you some of what I'm listening to. So that's
Yeah, send it my
yeah.
way.
And when you're in Melbourne, we'll do a coffee. We'll do a coffee and a walk.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll see what the schedule's like, because they jam pack our day. Like, I don't know if you've been on conference with, before,
Yeah.
like for any of your coaching.
Yes.
But it's just like, I think I maybe get like 15-20 minutes in between one
Yeah.
thing to the other.
How long for, and what conference are you in here for?
Also, this isn't a conference. This is just more like a symposium.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like, it's more of an in-house symposium, and going and meeting with builders and developers and looking at different stock that we're bringing on for our clients in preparation for a mentoring program.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Symposium being the format where there are different speakers at different times, and they're pitching and selling certain different
They're all
things.
in leadership. Yeah. So, but we're just equally understanding the groups and, what's expected for this quarter and for the year, and equally forecasting for the next 10 years.
Yeah, beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
we'll schedule. We'll find a time. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be like 30 minutes before or after it. We can just go. All right,
So
quick.
you're in Melbourne, are you?
I'm currently in Melbourne. Yeah. So
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought you were in Brisbane.
I'm normally based in Brisbane. I'm giving Brisbane another year, especially since Hamilton is there now. And exciting things on that as well. Like literally today, I just released a video. I'll be speaking with. I'm in touch. There's a three-prong approach to it. I can share this vulnerably, openly, and honestly here.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I've applied for them 2 years ago. So I have the direct contact with the organizers behind Hamilton. It's the best of the best. So like this is my moonshot for the year.
Oh, amazing. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Then I've got my agent as well, which I'll speak to them and have them reach out as well. And then I got a social media branch as well. So I'm just creating some buzz on my side, just, my people going, oh, like this is happening. Like, so literally it was just finally released. I finally announced it last week. I'm like, hey, by the way.
So all your projects that you're working on, AKA the podcast, the book, the chapter, the musical, it's all coming to fruition.
It's all coming to fruition. Yeah, you know me very well. You're seeing all the different layers and things that I've been working on. So
yeah, amazing. Well done. Because I think that to have worked in the career that you have for as long as you have, and obviously as an actor, you want to have that level of being seen and have that exposure and being acknowledged, and collaborating with like-minded people, but equally large corporations such as a musical like Hamilton.
absolutely.
That's amazing.
I want to talk about retreats, because I'll touch back on this, and then we can talk about acting if you want. When I was talking about surrender, like literally I ran a 6 a.m. club inspired by Robin Sharma. So Robin Sharma is about the 5 a.m. club, getting up there. 6 a.m. was the group that I ran. It's called the 20-20-20, and you've seen the password on the Zoom. It's 20-20-20. It's
yeah, I did actually. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the 20-20-20?
I'm not actually, no.
It's the whole idea that whenever you get up, that first hour is a sacred magical hour, and the 20-20-20 is you have 20 minutes of movement. So whether it's exercise, a walk, yoga, we do Kinergy because we draw Tony Robbins, so a holistic aerobic dance. Celebrate the morning. That's a Gosku. Yeah, yeah. So we do some Kinergy, we do some movement, and then we do some journaling, some mindfulness.
Yep.
And then mastery. So we do some group sharing and learning. And I did that for 450 plus days. And it was effectively a women's circle. Like most of the people that came through, like these beautiful souls were mostly women. I think we've only had 3 or 4 guys that came through. And it's such a beautiful space. It's to install positive habits. And from that, from the fruition of that, I ran 2 retreats. So from 2021, like we did it 2020, 2021 January. We're like, we really want to like get together, like in person. So how can we do this? So we rented a space in Hunter Valley, and there was 8 of us that
Beautiful.
came together.
And
And
what was the retreat mainly about? Like what was the, I guess, the run sheet?
yeah, it was a mini UPW. It was
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Amazing.
So it was about 4 or 5 days, and we started out. We had a number of different cool experiences that we got to partake in as well. So we opened with dining. We're in Hunter Valley, so we went like a bit of whining. There was some pony riding and some skydiving in the midst of all that, and all of them
Wow.
has lessons to it too about like surrender.
Oh,
And
I know that word very well, Chris.
it's a
Yeah.
beautiful word. It's a beautiful word.
I've had to do that a lot in the last year.
I want to hear about, we're going to talk about that. We're going to come back to surrender for you. I love this. But yeah, there, in the midst of that, I had a whole evening where, because I was kind of the head facilitator for that, and I gave the room for everyone. It was everyone's coach, a healer, creative, and so everyone could bring in their own magic, their own juice to it. And the last day was literally, it was Tony Robbins day 3. It was like a mini Dickens process. We found 3 of their like old beliefs, their old BS, and then you know rewrite it, find out what the positive opposite is for that, like
Yep.
do affirmations to reaffirm and put it in our body, and then at the end of it we finished with a burn. So we literally wrote it out, put it on a piece of paper, like we thanked it, and then we had a little fire that we just like let it go back into the
Love
universe.
that. Love
So so that was the retreat, and that was the first one. Then the second one was a effectively it was UPW, and I just brought a number of coaches together to experience UPW together. So yeah.
It sounds like you equally, bring people together in these communities that you've created.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I am a community builder. Let's go to you about surrender. What is surrender to you? And I know we've talked offline, some beautiful, really like heartfelt journeys that you've had. What's surrender to you? And only share as much or as little as you want to share, because I know there's some things that might be
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like, surrender to me is just, I'm gonna swear now. It's just
Yeah.
honestly, it's been the universe kicking my fucking ass, is what it's been.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am so grateful to the universe for everything that it has given me, shown me, where it's taken me, because it's all led me to where I am and who I am today. And
Yes.
honestly, I've had to surrender because I felt like at different times I was unaware that I was trying to control my own narrative. And
Mm.
yes, you can write your own story, and you can, visit your old trauma, and you can rewrite the story, and you can heal, and you can let it go. But surrendering to it is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
It's,
It's this motion is like
I should go and get my sage.
yeah.
Basically what's happened for me in the journey of surrendering is just basically it's been confronting, it's been painful, it's been difficult, and it's been beautiful all at the same time.
Mm.
And yeah, there's been so many different layers to that, but I would say where I came to realize where I had to surrender first and foremost was a few years ago after I left a partner that I was with, that the relationship was quite toxic. I was living in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, and my life was work hard, play hard, work hard, play hard, work hard, play hard. And although I had a lot of beautiful friendships and relationships I had made through him, they were very much so, I would say, well, not all of them, some of them. Some of the friendships were just all based on partying.
Yeah.
And it was just quite surface. There was not a lot of depth to it. And I didn't know it at the time. I didn't really see it at the time because I was in it.
Yeah.
Right? I was in it. I couldn't see it.
You can't see the water when you're swimming. Like it's like that.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And like, honestly, I played the role just as much as other people played the role. But basically walking away from that relationship and in how it ended was really quite toxic. there was emotional, mental, and physical abuse. So in the end, I walked away, and I was honestly, my soul, every capacity of my mentality, my spirit, my body, mind was broken. And I moved back to the Central Coast. And I moved to this beautiful house. It was like, I call it the tree house in Kilcare. It was so beautiful. And I was able to be reunited with my beautiful border collie, Sparky, who I write about in the chapter.
I read that in your chapter, yeah.
Yeah. And I had this moment, in that moment, that when I surrendered to the fact that what I had, what I thought I was going to have, we were looking at buying a house together. I'd already had a miscarriage with him. We were looking at falling pregnant. And still in amongst all the chaos, there was this work hard, play hard situation. I realized I had to surrender to the vision that I thought I was going to have wasn't going to be anymore. But what I got to have in lieu of that, basically, was this experience where I went through this death and rebirth.
Yes. Yeah.
And equally, I got to spend the last few months of my baby's life, my fur baby's life, with him. And it was honestly, like, it was one of the first moments where I understood what surrender meant. Yeah. Just surrender to that. What you think is going to be is not always going to be. And you just have to let it go and go with it, and just see where it's going to take you. And the universe is going to show you what it needs to show you at different times. And it's going to be hard, but you'll make it through to the other side. There's been multiple facets of, it's been a multifaceted situation in the last, I'd say, 2 years around surrendering. But having the opportunity to, I guess, equally see him pass, my beautiful border collie, and just see how he surrendered.
You got to care for him in that time where literally it's the winter of his life and is the passing. I know
how he surrendered to life, and just to then equally to death, and just being like, I trust you, I trust this is happening. It was just a beautiful experience. And obviously animals can't speak, but they speak with their eyes and their energy. And
was there a lot of grace too? Did you see that resignation that happened in him?
Yeah, I really did. And then equally myself, I guess, when I had emergency surgery not long after he had passed, I had to surrender to the fact that I had no control over the situation. I had to my body was doing what it was doing, and that was it. I had to just go with it.
Yeah.
Same thing with the recovery process. And, although I loved that house that I was living in at Kilcare, it was the place that I found my soul again. I found my identity again.
Yeah.
I became this amazing goddess that I knew I always was, but I never was able to tap into her.
Yeah.
And I tapped into her there, and I was, I was like a hermit.
Yeah.
I just looked after myself and my soul, and just nourished myself and nurtured myself. And
sometimes we need the time to just be.
I think after something so traumatic, and when
I want to acknowledge your whole journey, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So like from the beginning, where from a toxic relationship, and and finding the gratitude and gift in that. As we know, this is very much Tony Robbins, but life is happening for us, not to us.
100%.
So everything that we may feel that it's a terrible thing that might have happened in our past, there's a gift in it, because it does build who we are today.
Yeah.
And, I can speak. My parents, I love my parents to life. They're phenomenal people, and they gave so much of their time. But my mom was never very good in terms of having that emotional conversation, and because of that, I'm very good in terms of emotional EQ.
Yeah.
When you talk about, like, I just want to touch on this bit where you felt emotionally and spiritually and like mentally like broken, and I can tell already that you've done the full recovery. Where But I just want to touch for especially people who are listening and watching this. We are never broken. That whole concept. We are not porcelain dolls or porcelain cups. Like we don't break. We're always a whole person. We just feel broken sometimes. And
100%.
Yeah.
I was equally at the time, full disclosure here. I was equally at the time, I believe in plant medicine. and I was turning to marijuana, and I was, you know, really, I was feeling all of what I needed to feel, but then there was times where I would self-medicate, and I would, you know, have it to help with my anxiety. I would have it to help me try and sleep, or to try and, you know, if I've had a really bad day and I needed to just block it out, I would self-medicate. But the unhealthy scenario in that was that I wasn't really doing it in a group situation or one-on-one with somebody else. I was doing it alone, and I was doing it when I was isolated. And so the feeling that I was feeling already, it only ever heightens it, and then it brings you back down.
That's it. Yeah.
And I was working with my coach, Sam, but I wasn't being transparent with her to the degree of what I was doing in the back end. And I really recognized that I had to stop that self-sabotaging behavior, because although it was a beautiful experience many times for me, and it was able to give me what I needed in that moment, I was in a looping cycle, I found. And I had to kind of stop that process so that I could actually feel how broken I was, because I was masking the pain and I was suppressing the pain.
Yeah.
I was suppressing it. I wasn't actually feeling it to the degree of what I needed to feel.
I love that. Yeah, where, you know, you acknowledged the word isn't addiction, but it is addiction. Where like
it pretty much was like, I wasn't having it, you know, in the morning and at the crack of dawn, and
but
having
it's
it
that
at lunchtime.
dependency on something.
It was I was very much so codependent on it. Yeah.
And then having that be something, it can be anything, where like addiction is often used for drugs, but it can be anything from using your phone. Like a lot of people use social media as their escape these days too, just like mindless scrolling. I'm guilty of that too sometimes. But to be able to acknowledge that, oh wait, this behavior is literally just to mask what I'm really feeling, and then that itself is a big revelation to go, all right, I'm taking that away, and then like, what am I feeling? And then you being able to address the undercurrent that's there, and then going, okay, now I can see what my feelings are.
You can move through it in a way that is confronting but equally graceful, and just you kind of learn to just be gentle on yourself, you know, just be kind to yourself, and just let yourself feel what you need to feel to basically heal it.
That's it.
And I went through that process.
Feel to heal, right? It's a simple 4-step process where we identify the feeling, you know. So you like that level of consciousness, it's a revelation for some people to go, okay, wait, I am feeling these things. So the feel, and then identify, then you feel it, literally to feel into it, and then you find the lessons from it, and then you let it go. It's
100%. And I saw your step-by-step in your book, and I think that's a really beautiful way to kind of break it down for people that are reading it. It's quite simple when you break it down like that, but it's simply said, it's not simply done.
It's not easy to do. Our generation, I truly believe that our generation is the first generation where we can do what past generations haven't done, which is feelings are meant to be felt.
100%. And actually, one of the things I've recently done, I had a healing. I'm very much so a healer myself, but I believe that the healer always needs healing. You know, we hold space for so many people. We come across different energies, and to get rid of the energy that we might equally resonate with, or it might trigger us, or, you know, whatever it might be, it's always good to just clear the energy.
Absolutely, yeah. As empaths, we take on other people's energies, and we're like, hey, hang on.
Yeah.
It's not my grief. You know, we can let it go as well.
100%. And one of the healings I did, which recently, that just resonated with what you just mentioned in terms of like lineage, and just like this generation in changing things, and, you know, having more of an emotional, you know, EQ.
Yes.
I did a healing recently, and it was incredible, because I went in with one objective, which was I wanted to clear the feeling of failure in my relationships, clear the feeling the failure around business. I'd had a business when I was younger. I'd studied fashion business, and I had a clothing label when I was younger. Yeah. And, you know, launching my second business, I just had a lot of fear of going into it. Although I know I'm good at business, and I, in what I do every day as a property coach, I help so many people, and I've been a massive contributor to the company that I work for, being successful for them. But then I have all this internal head noise.
Yep.
I guess you could call it imposter syndrome.
Yep.
where
common among,
when you go into launching the second business, oh my God, is my business going to fail again? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And so I went into the healing with the objective of clearing fear of failing, right? And what came up for me instead was all this beautiful feminine energy in my life, from my great-grandmother wound, from my grandmother, my mother, my auntie that had committed suicide, my sister, my niece. And there was all these beautiful energies coming through that made me really see that there's this lineage of feminine wound in my family, where they've not felt good enough, they've not felt smart enough. There's been domestic violence, there's been sexual abuse, there's been mental health issues, all these different things. And I, for some reason, without realizing, subconsciously, I was carrying.
And how amazing and how wonderful it is, and like fully heard, fully received, to be able to be the person that breaks that tribal cycle, where you're, there's something beautiful about that. It lands on our shoulders. As we can talk ethnicity as well. Like we're talking about blood. Like I'm mostly Chinese by blood. I think if you look in DNA, we all got little bits of everything. But there's this lineage which is 4,000 years. And if you look ancestrally, you watch Mulan, I think they do it really well, where literally it's like, oh, I'm not just doing this, but my ancestors are all standing behind me, and they're all looking after me. And whatever I do is really built on all the shoulders of all these giants. And, and we have this opportunity to actually change course, where we're like, hey, we never talked about emotions before, but now we can. It's a big deal. Like it's not lost to me, like the tremendous change that we're doing, like the evolution that we're having right now, as people.
Definitely. And I love that, because I think that it's important to be able to be in touch with your emotions and clearly communicate how you feel, and what your needs are. And for a culture to not really be doing that based on history, to me, I mean, I'm not in that culture, so it's hard for me to understand and to fathom. But my background is Spanish, and we're actually the opposite.
Tell me more.
We're very affectionate, we're very loud, we're very loving, we're very talkative. And I feel like more of the Chinese culture is, a bit more subtle.
I'll say it. Like, yeah, we tend to repress our emotions, and if there's something that's there's this thing called saving face. So literally, like, if it's in any way shameful, we don't talk about it. And we're really good at not saying anything bad. Like we don't libel, we don't slander, we don't defame anybody in our families. And it's we call it blood. We literally call it blood. And like, it's the same with, like, even if Koreans, Japanese, like Vietnamese, all very similar in that culture. Like, I see them as cousins in that way. Literally, we just like, hey, we don't shame other people if we can. So I think that's a beautiful thing. I
think so too. I think there's definitely beautiful qualities, but I think that this generation, like you just mentioned, that the fact that this generation is coming through, such as yourself, and in your culture, and you're able to kind of break that pattern.
Yeah.
And come the day that maybe you become a father or have your own children and whatnot, or have your own great children and great grandchildren if you're around. You're able to then kind of keep a lot of the history that's really important and that obviously you value. But then equally bringing this new edge and this new opportunity of really having that ability to tap into your intuition and tap into your feelings and your emotion and articulate exactly what that is.
Thank you for that. That's beautiful. And I know my kids in the future, this is very clear image for me. Like, my kids are gonna be so multicultural. So I know my kids are gonna be
multicultural. I love that.
Can I share a little vulnerability?
Sure.
When I say a little, it's going to be vulnerable. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it probably predates to probably when I was like a kid too. I remember like, uh, this is just a memory. This is just a memory, but I remember like, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old and there was a shampoo ad. I've never shared the story before in a public forum. It was a shampoo ad and it was like this, I know she's Caucasian. I know she's a white woman. And I think she had like she was brunette. It was a shampoo ad, and I remember like just going, oh my gosh, and I kissed the screen, and it was a big deal for my family. Like, oh my gosh, like so like my former love of life, like she's this Italian Australian girl, like blonde hair, blue eyed, and I had 4 Asian girlfriends before her, but like my palette was completely changed after her, and so like literally like my dating history, if you look back, it's like the United Nations. I've dated like French African, like twice, Canadian, like you name it. I've probably
You
gone
like
there.
all flavors.
Yeah, yeah, I,
You like
like
all flavors.
I don't discriminate, but after my former love of life, like I tend to date Caucasians, not and rarely Asians,
Okay.
and my joke is mainly like, and I love Asians, like my mom is Asian, like my whole family is Asian,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm definitely the gray sheep in the family that's gonna be, yep,
You're
my
gonna break
kids.
you're gonna break that.
I'm gonna break that in the nicest way, like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely envision.
Mix it up. Let's not call it break it. Let's call it mix it up. You're gonna mix it
Yeah,
up.
we're gonna mix it
Yeah.
up. We're gonna have a blend in the
Yeah.
family,
Nice.
and
Nice.
yeah, and it's
Actually, touching on your relationships, because just that then just gave me the opportunity in my mind just to remember another point in the chapter that you spoke of that I'm curious about, and I'm sure other people listening will be too. Once
go
they
for it. Go for it.
So you touched on, you've dabbled here and there in polyamorous
Yeah.
relationships.
Oof.
So I have an idea of what that all is because, as I mentioned, I follow Aubrey Marcus and
Super.
the Poet Queen and, his wife Ilana, and I understand, how that all works. I actually recently watched this show on Netflix called How to Build a Sex Room. Have you seen it?
I've seen a few episodes of that. Yeah.
And
What a
there's
great
like a
show.
whole nother diversity of polyamorous as well on there. There was like 7 people in one relationship. Did you see
Yep.
that?
Yep. I've seen that episode.
So I'm
About
curious,
halfway down.
like after you actually being in that situation, like what actually,
Okay.
I guess, engaged you in the first place to go down that avenue, and why
Let's
do you
unpack
like
that.
being in that
Let's
situation?
unpack that. All right. So, like, how much time do we have? So, so the first thing I would say is, what is polyamory? And there's one way to do monogamy, but there's as many ways to do polyamory as there are people. All right. So the most important thing is that, what's wonderful about like open relating and poly is that you learn languaging that monogamous relationships, committed relationships that I even wish I had in my past relationships, because you can language certain things. We can talk about like the spiritual contracts that we create for each other, and then like renew them. Like you have to renew these like either verbally or actually sometimes people write them down as well.
Yeah.
So um there's a great book called More Than Two. I would highly recommend that, and it's a great, like, I cannot recommend that enough. It's a great book to understand the scope of polyamory. And like I can share from my experience when reading it. Like the first couple of chapters, they use a lot of terminology, and if you've been mostly monogamous most of your life, uh, it will be slightly triggering. You'll be reading and be like, "Ooh, ooh, oh," like, but
Like,
it's like that's where growth is really. Like when you seek discomfort, that's where you find growth. So that book was so beautiful and eye opening, and like it's um
so what
I'll,
made you get into it in the first place?
I'll share with you. There's so many different entry points to this. I'll share with you uh my one of my my friend, my dear friend, and she's this amazing, phenomenal coach in the coaching space as well. She she shared her perspective on it. The why, like, Chris, you got to read this book. Like you're like learning polyamory. You got to read this book. And for her, like she has like what the definition of polyamory. Polyamory is having multiple relationships at a time. All right. So it means different things to different people. For her, she has 5 kids, and she's in love with all her kids. And her kids are so different and diverse as well. One is also gender fluid, one is gay, one like believes in like having like three, like being in a triple. Like, so to have the compassion to love his kids, her kids, she's like, well, my heart has been that much bigger. Like, she's got like the heart the size of a moon. She's beautiful. For me personally, like how I got to it was, again, former love of life. Like, there are promises that I made myself, and I love sharing this, and this is vulnerable. I rarely ever share this, so it's great that, thank you for asking the question.
It's okay.
Because I made promises to myself that, I would love her for the rest of my life. I'm keeping that promise in some sense, and she's helped build me. I've helped build her, and so that continues on for me. Where
Okay.
I'm not going to renege that promise, but
So
love
can
is
I just
different.
ask you on the back of that? Sorry to
Please,
interrupt you, but I'm
please.
just curious, like, as you're in the moment, I want to ask on the back of it. So what you're saying is the relationship ended with your past partner.
Yes.
And although you've started a new relationship, that you are still somewhat attached to her and have hold space for her and love her because she's been a really big part of building you up in your journey to who you are today.
So
is that what you mean?
Yes and no. So I'm not attached to her.
Okay.
I've surrendered that ages ago. And that's
okay. Surrender.
Yeah, there's a lot of surrender to that. In a committed relationship, like, I can speak transparently here. Like, I am seeing someone. There's a beautiful connection that I have right now.
Yeah.
I would say there are two. But the one that I'm seeing right now, yeah, we have a beautiful connection, and we connect on so many different levels. Like, there's so many things that we parallel in our lives, and there's about 5 different things where we just sync up on, like, perfectly. So, like, I'm building that, and we're moving towards a committed relationship. So we haven't made any commitments yet to each other, but it's still early days. We're still like a week and a half in. I know. But what I find phenomenal and surprising is, and I touched on it in the book, is I've now done the count, is about 9. There's about 9 soulmates that I've met, and I've lucky to have had relationships with about 6 of them. And so, and each of them equally in their own way, I would this is how I would define a soulmate relationship, where I'd be like, okay, there are coincidences and synchronicities that I can't explain, that that are just happen, that they feel God-given, and I would write them and I would list them, and like I would literally verbally say, hey, you notice this thing, like, and the count would be about 36, and I've had that happen a few times where there'd be 36 different synchronicities. That's when I stopped counting. I'm like, all right, there's so many. And yeah, so that has happened. Like, what blows my mind still to this day is that that's happened more than once, and I'm like, okay, it's clearly there's every relationship, every soulmate relationship, will be there for a season, a reason, or a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so at the core of me, I believe that what I deeply desire is like one lifelong relationship. Like, that's enough for me. But at the same time, I've having been opened already, I'm like, yeah, there's something beautiful about open relating and polyamory, where it's the level of honesty and transparency that you can have with someone, so where, we are all social beings, and we're all sexual beings. And there's I'm tapping onto Adam Savage here, but he talks about how we are not 100% right for our partners 100% of the time. We never will be. Like, there's no such thing as perfection in that. Yeah. So when we understand that, we're like, okay, cool. Like, how we can be filled, like, we can get really close. We can get like 60 to 80, maybe 90%.
Yeah.
Like, they fulfill all these things, but there's some gaps that you can't fulfill. And so being in an open relationship, being able to talk about these things, like, creates that opening as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing all of that, because it's an interesting topic, and I think it's a topic that a lot of people would be curious about, because it's not something that it's talked about a lot more now, for sure. but it's not something that's spoken about, every day of the week, in normal society, really, is it?
Yeah. I'll share this because when I wrote my chapter, I wrote, we're given like a word limit, 3,500, 3,800. When I first wrote it, I was like, all right, cool. I just want to write unfiltered what I need to share. I saw about 7 parts to it. Wrote. Hardest thing I've ever done. Like so much the emotional roller coaster of working through things that I've already grieved, worked through, and let go. I had to pull it
Yes.
back and process. I acknowledge any first time writers, and especially going to a level of vulnerability, I'm like so much love and respect and admiration and kudos to you because I know like the process I had to go through and
Yeah,
hardest thing I've done in 3 years. So like
it
and
really is, isn't it?
it really is such a beautiful journey and such catharsis as well, so rewarding. When I wrote, I was like, all right, the first time I checked in, I was like, all right, let me check. Crystal sent me a message, hey, like maybe check your word count. I know you've been writing for like a day and a half now. I'm like, all right, cool. Do the word count. All right, cool. 1,500. I'm doing good. I'm about halfway there.
I forget how many words we had to do because I had to chop and change mine so many times. How many words was it again? 3,000?
3,800 is the rough amount that she's given us.
I think mine was 3,000. I
Amazing.
think we got 800. I wish I got 800.
So get this, because the second time I checked the word count, I wrote like, all right,
I would have liked that extra few 800.
I feel you. I feel you. You should write your own book. Like,
I think I will. I think I'm going to write a triple trilogy one day.
yeah.
Yeah, I probably
I'll be
could.
there to support you for your
Oh,
big
thank
launch.
you.
Yeah. My second time I checked it, I blew past my word count. I had 15,000 words.
Wow.
Yeah. That's 7 parts. So there were 4 parts I had to let go. I was like, all right, this is beautiful. I'm saving this for my future book, for my full book. So in that was the open relating, was talking on some of the polyamory.
Yeah.
And the open relating was the rules of like the first person who I learned open relating from and the rules that he gave me, the guidelines that he gave me. So
I love that.
yeah, it's
Thank
yeah.
you for sharing. And I think, people will be really intrigued and, to learn more about your chapter.
Yeah.
And obviously then into your book.
Yeah, thank you. Back to you. I'm gonna put the spotlight back on you. So I'm curious, what was the biggest revelation, and something that you wish you had in the book that you didn't manage to put in the book?
Ooh. Ooh. Biggest revelation.
So I guess it's a two-parter. Yeah, the biggest revelation you had in writing, and then the thing that you left out of the book that you wish you could put back in.
I think that really that part of my healing journey, truly like part of my healing journey was uncovering so many things that had happened to me as a child that were really quite traumatic. And honestly, it's not something that I've been very comfortable in speaking about prior, but I think it's important to speak about, to bring to light what people kind of go through and what trauma does and how the brain works and how it can actually block things out that have happened to you that have been quite traumatic, and it's your body's way of protecting you.
Yeah.
And you don't know why you have anger or resentment or why you walk around with a bit of a chip on your shoulder, and you might be this loving and fun energy, but underneath it, there's only a certain level that people can kind of get to in terms of how close they get to you. They can't really get that close.
Yes.
And there's reasons behind it, but you don't necessarily know why.
Yeah.
I had basically unraveled throughout my healings and hypnosis and different things that I was sexually abused when I was a child, by multiple people. And basically,
I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm gonna jump in and just this is like the emotional intimacy part, but that is terrible, and I can't imagine what you had to go through, and I do not wish that on anybody. That's the worst thing, one of the worst things that could happen to somebody. And
it
so
is.
I'm so sorry. Like
That's okay. I honestly, like I just
Yeah.
explained, like it was my brain had basically somehow blocked out what had kind of happened to me when I was younger. and I wasn't able to remember. It was only going through different processes and different modalities with coaches and hypnosis and healers that I went into, I guess, a state where my body relived different experiences. And I didn't write it in the chapter. I didn't write it in the chapter because I thought it's probably too much. And there was already so much that I was unpacking around, you know, the loss of relationship, the loss of grief, and, you know, things around how to heal, you know, in a relationship that's ending, basically.
Yes.
But a huge part of my healing really came from understanding what had happened to me.
Yeah.
And the trauma that I had held on to that I didn't know about. And so by understanding that, it meant that I realized, you know, equally with my father wound of being abandoned as a really young child, and, you know, basically growing up in a household where there was a lot of domestic violence in my younger years. And my mum left that relationship basically when I was 5. So I wasn't around it for very long, but the time that I was, it was pretty intense.
Yes.
But basically I didn't realize that throughout my whole adult life of all these different relationships that I was attracting really toxic relationships, and relationships that were basically, you know, somehow they needed some level of healing. I needed healing, but I was attracting the same sort of people. And it was only until I healed myself, my partner that I have now.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, he needs to do a lot of healing within himself as well. He's had a lot of things that have happened to him as well. But he has a bit more of a higher emotional intelligence, and is very tuned with himself, and is open-minded and open to actually doing the work on himself.
That's all the difference too. Like, I want to acknowledge your journey again. Like, you've been through so much, and I see why you didn't include that in the chapter. I love how it's a zoomed out approach. There were there were parts where, like, I wanted to explore more, where, like, there were things left on the table. Like when you talk about Sparky, I was like, Sparky passed away. I feel like he passed away, but, you know, that could be something that could be explored. Talking about sexual abuse when you were young, that's a whole chapter of its own, because literally packed that. And
I actually started to write about it. And then I realized that wasn't a core memory for me. That was something that my body forgot. My body protected me. My brain and my, you know, my subconscious mind protected me from that, so that my conscious mind didn't have to carry that. So I only decided to write about, I guess, the core memory that was, I guess, one of the first experiences within death, within grief, within seeing the ripple effect around my family, and equally what depression does to people. Equally,
I love you open that, and you're making it normalized. You're not like, the first thing about depression and anxiety is being able to talk about it.
Pardon?
I know as a masculine too, like men, whenever it comes to like Men's Health and Men's Week, it's literally about men are the ones who don't even talk about depression and anxiety, and just making it not a stigma is a big deal. So I love that you bring that into the conversation.
A lot of the women actually, and men that I attract with doing the healings, without me necessarily trying, for some reason, I actually attract a lot of people that have had some sort of abuse, whether it be emotional, mental, physical, or sexual abuse. I attract them somehow, and
I think that's very normal. I think that's
and
it's where you're at, but also just the state of the world as well. So I mean, there are let's
sorry, my voice is kind of going. It's been like a day of meetings for me today too.
You're doing so great. I want to check and celebrate you. How are we going for time? We're almost 2 hours in, so like well done, incredible. The longest was probably 4 hours that I've done with someone.
I don't think I'd be able to stay for 4 hours.
Yeah. The shortest I've done is I'm honestly really cool. Like, at any point, if you feel like you're tired and we want to wrap up, anytime, just let me know. We can do that. Just give me like a double wink or Yeah, I'm happy to go till 11 o'clock. I think the shortest one was 2.5 hours that I had.
Yeah.
That's a mentee of mine. Just a beautiful soul. I call her a friend of birds as well because I sat at her. She did some NLP and she removed her fear of birds. Like she had an irrational fear of birds, and
Oh, wow.
that the stages of she went through. Oh my gosh, like from have you done a phobia bus before? Like
I haven't, but I've seen them.
you've
Yeah.
seen them, yeah. So we went through the phobia bust, and then the emotions that she went through was so beautiful and transparent where she was like, oh wow, I'm not afraid of birds, and then going, oh, I feel like this great sadness, like all this missed opportunities to like just like to just love and admire birds. And so now she has this beautiful fascination for birds where she has little like a bird book as well, and she's like
Bird lady.
yeah, that's one of the things. She's a many things, sleep expert, naturopath, coach. Yeah.
Oh,
I thank you for sharing about literally just that beautiful revelation, but
that's
also
okay.
the the childhood trauma that again you can write a whole chapter on that. So that's I'm glad you didn't. I think that's you wrote whatever is right for this book, the Inspired.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
wanted to talk about inspired connections, and I wanted to talk like that's what the book's about, inspired connections, right? So
yeah.
I wanted to talk about how to heal
Mhm.
from past trauma, and I guess equally recognize self-sabotaging behavior and how we are really the only people that we can rely on to heal ourselves. And we have to look internally, not externally, and really focus on what our behaviors and our patterns are to really be able
Mm.
to, adapt new behaviors and change
I,
basically.
I want to tap onto one thing that you shared because
Yeah.
that's law of attraction with what you were talking about. I don't even know if you realized it,
Yeah,
but
with
we're
Ryan.
we're literally like because you had the inner like the father wound and you know your mom and dad like left like when you were
Yeah.
5 years old. Never addressing that, you started to attract all these toxic relationships that emulated. I imagine would emulate that relationship your mom and dad had, and then when you realize, you go, okay, hold on a second, like this is happening. And when you heal yourself and you let go of that you really mend that wound and let it go, that's when you go, all of a sudden you can attract a beautiful person like Ryan, who is like a beautiful mix of like masculine and feminine energy,
He is. Yeah.
open to doing the work on himself, who
Yeah.
who can openly communicate, like
Yeah. And I think that sometimes, things don't always happen the way that we expect them to. I mean,
mm,
we can journal, we can manifest, we can do our top 10 things that we want to achieve, and write down our values and our goals. And we can do a varying ceremony and send it out to the universe. But at the end of the day, the universe is going to give you exactly what you need when you need it.
yes, yeah,
And it's going to show you what you need to see.
yeah,
And I do believe that the universe works with you, not against you.
that's it.
And, you can work on your goals on a daily basis and have a plan that you're wanting to try and get to. And it's great to do something every single day to try
Mm,
and get to that point. But at the same time, I think that, yeah, the law of attraction in the universe has this massive influence and realm that we just don't even understand.
mm. We're
Just
just grasping at
vibrations.
straws because it's literally
Yeah.
it's so vast. But as long as we just again set an intention, say yes, and
Yeah. I
the
mean,
universe will conspire to help us.
like I'll share with you, like,
Mm.
um, I had to rewrite my story, as I kind of mentioned, and I had to write a new story. And it's funny, in the last year and a half since I've started really focusing on doing restoration retreat and studying and doing the healings and working with different mentors, and I'm about to obviously work and do a workshop, do a course with Michaela in
Yes.
March. And I've been focusing on the book, I've been focusing on marketing and doing all these different things to promote my new business that I've got. And while I was focusing all my attention on all of these different things,
Mhm.
the things that I had let go of and I had surrendered that weren't for me anymore have all started to come to fruition equally.
How good is that? It's so beautiful. Yeah, I
Yeah.
resonate with that. Yeah.
And when you're not having this massive expectation and you're not having this level of attachment to something is when you're not going to be disappointed. But when you don't have it and you just trust and surrender, you know, the divine guidance that I already have is within me now, and how can I get more? Basically, that's when the magic happens. And I'm in a place where the universe literally has kicked my fucking ass, but at the same time, it has given me so many beautiful gifts and opportunities. And I'm just so grateful for where I'm at. And I feel really empowered to be the person that is breaking my family lineage and the feminine wound. And I'm breaking the barriers for this next generation to come through.
Yeah. Oof, celebrating you for that.
Yeah.
I feel like you've done the course. I feel like the Michael A. Singer course, he talks about manifestation.
Yes, he does. Yeah, I did do that. That's exactly what I did.
Do you remember the 4 levels of manifestation?
Not specifically. I remember you write it down, you feel it, you say it.
I'll bring it back in. So
yeah, bring it back in.
I'm a bit of the, all right, can I speak for my highest self?
Go for it.
I was like the golden child of the coaching institute, where I was learning multiplistically too. I told them openly, I was like, yeah, I'm learning from Mind Valley as well as Success Resources, so you guys are not the only ones. Michael A. Singer's 4 the manifestor frames.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing human design, I will bring this in if they're manifestors, but I love this because this is in the realm of spirituality. So there are 4. The first level is victim mentality, where and everyone goes through it, especially when we're kids. Like, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Like, really not taking ownership for things that are happening, but just like, yeah, why is this happening to me? Like everything is, you're so disempowered. It's like victim. People are doing these things to me, right? When we get to the second one, it's much more masculine, and it's a more of a push energy, and it literally what you were sharing about, writing, like even when we journal and we're setting intentions and our goals, we're writing our list of 10 things that we want to achieve, all of those are really good. Like we're literally creating like a vision and where we want to head. And Vision Like Yama says it really brilliantly, where every time we write and there's that want, our subconscious knows that we don't have it. And so therein lies some suffering. Therein lies some friction. So there's that push energy. When we go up one, it's much more feminine, and that's flow. Like all of a sudden, it's like this flow energy. It's just going, all right.
True. Yeah.
Like,
just the universe, more in the be than less than the do.
Yeah, more of the be. We're gonna get there. More of the be than the do. But it's like literally the universe gives us something, and then all right, we'll flow with this. We'll see where it goes. I have a huge heart for women. Like you see, the work that I do is very much, I'm for the women's movement. There's a reason why I'm in Crystal's book with 16 other women, and I just like that.
I believe that, and I can see that you can hold space for women in like a really beautiful way. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's such a big. I have such a big heart for that, for women's movement, for women's equity, and women are divine feminine. Like you as a person, but you as women, right?
Yeah.
Like the human, you are the human vessel for life, and that's how beautiful is that, where you literally channel and you flow like life, like. We can talk about having kids if you want to. Another subject. All right, so that's the feminine, right? That's the flow, and then the highest one is surrender. It's the closest thing to being. It's just literally being, and then saying like what's there. Like children have it's this closest thing to the being a child again, like childlike wonderment. So just everything is just like, oh, like what a gift. Like I truly believe that when we wake up in the morning, like we don't decide, like we decide like when we're going to sleep, but we don't decide to wake up. So like that's a higher power. So when we wake up, every day is a gift. Like I constantly remind myself, I'm like, like, it's like part of my mantra in a day when I'm having my first meal, I'm going, another day in paradise. Like, so yeah, it really is like every day is a gift. Like we are spiritual beings, like spirits in a human body experiencing this human experience. So like the highest is literally surrender, where we go, what's happening? And we'll just say yes to this, and yes, and the biggest lesson in improv and in life is yes, and.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I think going back into those different parts of, the manifestation and how it all works and broken down is really crucial, I think, for people that don't understand how manifestation works, or, don't really believe in it. Or, for me, I didn't really realize that I did do that often. I didn't realize that I was somebody that was manifesting without manifesting. And then I applied different parts that you've just kind of touched on into it.
Yes.
But I also do video journals. So, part of working with my coach is, let's do your journaling.
Yep.
On days that you're having a good day or days that you're having a bad day, record it. Do a 10-minute video of yourself. What's happened, what happened last night, what's happened that morning, what's your plan for the day, where are you at? And just actually being able to check back and look at what you were feeling, what your emotions were doing at the time. But you can't actually capture that in a journal. When you're capturing it in a 10-minute video journal or video diary, it's really interesting, especially on the days that you're not having such a good day.
Yes.
Go back and see it on a day that you're having a good day and see what your bad day was. It's uplifting and it's motivating to see how you can just turn yourself around. And then equally, when you're having a bad day, to go and watch a video of yourself on a good day, it equally changes your mindset.
I love that.
Yeah.
Are these video journals for yourself only, or do you
for yourself
have
only? No, for yourself only. Yeah.
Interesting.
Private.
I might experiment with that. I love that.
It's been life-changing for me, because an emotion that I've never really been able to deal with very well has been anger. It's something that I avoid. And, recently I had some things come up for me, in my relationship with Ryan, and I was really, really angry, really, really angry. And so I recorded it. And I was able to get all my anger out. And, a time came where I could share it with him. And, I was angry in the moment again, but I didn't know if it felt safe to be angry to him or to express my emotions in that way. And I said, look, I want to show you something. I'm not sure how you're going to receive it, but I'd like to show you this because of how I'm feeling at the moment. And instead of getting into a thing with you now, this is something that's gone and in the past. But if I show you this, then you might be able to resonate with where I'm at today and just be a little bit more patient or just understanding.
Yes.
And by doing that exercise, it was really effective, actually, because it meant that he could see the level of anger and frustration I had, but I didn't have to go through that confronting situation in that moment.
I love that. Ooh.
Yeah. And it was quite powerful.
Yeah, you put in some time displacement so it doesn't hit as hard as if you're just having an argument live, but this is what happened in the past. But so you can know what's going underneath here, like just that with patience, love, and compassion.
Yeah.
What was the end result from that? Like, how did he receive that?
He was quiet. I don't think he knew how to respond initially. He said, look, I'm sorry that's how you're feeling, and he acknowledged how I was feeling, and how can I do better and be better? All I can do is show up every day, doing the work for myself, doing the work for us, and just tell you that I'm committed to making it work and doing what I can, and I'm here to listen to you and how you're feeling, and I'm not going to get it right every day.
Yeah,
but I'll do my best.
That's a really emotionally intelligent response, and
it is
beautifully said. Like he reaffirmed his commitment. He wants to do better, and he acknowledged you where you were. So wow, that's awesome.
I think that's a cool tool in the future that I'll later on apply when I'm doing the couples retreats. That people can do that for themselves as individuals, and they could even integrate that later if they are having a moment where it's time out. Like, I don't want to have this confronting conversation with you now. It's going to get heated. It's only going to get worse. Let's take 10 minutes, just walk away and just, just dissect what's happening for us as individuals and then come back with fresh eyes.
Yes.
Never a good idea to get into things in the heat of the moment.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. This is Tony Robbins again. Yeah. When you're having that heated, you want to have an argument and you're becoming reactive, the best thing you can do is to just take 90 seconds, because your 90 seconds will just regulate your emotions. Like, just, isolate, bring yourself out of the argument or situation, give yourself 90 seconds, and then you come back, you're more calm, and then you can just like really just talk in a calm and like resourceful manner about the points that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah. Well, Sam Bowker, the coach that I was telling you about, my life coach, she's in the book. Yes. She, she's done Tony Robbins for the last, I think, like 10 years in a row.
Amazing.
Date with Destiny and Life Mastery and everything. And she, as my life coach, equally has now been assisting me and, my partner in a couple's capacity in that space. And it's been so interesting to see her in that light. Yeah. And how she holds space equally for feminine and masculine, and how she levels with them. So I have this deep, profound respect for coaches that are, and psychologists equally, that have to hold a space for two people in that moment. And
how is she as mediator? Does she have a conversation with you first and then bring the both of you? Or does she have one with you, one with him, and then the both of you?
Yeah, a combination of that. Yeah. So but what I never anticipated was that when I was, sitting on the couch recovering from my surgery and thinking of restoration retreat and helping all these couples, and obviously being inspired by so many couples around me, of my friends that I could see that were on the brink of potentially divorce and have kids, and just feeling a lot of pressure from being in lockdown and having to homeschool and, financial issues and just all these different things, as well as just communication and lack of intimacy.
Yes.
I never in a million years would have thought that I would be the guinea pig of what is going to eventually transpire with those pillars in adding the couples retreats to my business.
I love that you're the guinea pig, and that's part of the process. I believe that we have to go through it our first time, to then, in order to become the coach that serves, the healer that serves, and say, hey, I've been through this journey.
You know what? Here I am surrendering.
I'm championing and celebrating you for it. I think that's a wonderful thing. I think.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think that, we, like, again, what we manifest, what we want, what our dreams and hopes and goals and plans are, is one thing, but then the universe will give you what you need when you need it. And so, there's been some things that I won't unpack here. They're a little bit personal, but there's been things that have really pulled the relationship that I have completely apart, and then absolutely brought it back together in a way that is exactly what the universe wants. So I'm just going through that process where I'm just trusting and surrendering that the universe is going to give me exactly what it needs to give me.
Yes.
And whatever's meant for me won't go past me. So, do the work and, lean on the mentors and the coaches, and equally, trusting the process is where I'm at right now. And it's almost ironic, really, that's exactly where I'm wanting my eventual clients in that space to be able to go through and to trust, to do the deep work. Yes. And then to trust the process, and then to really enjoy and have pleasure in their relationships, and that connection and intimacy. And
I love that. Ooh, so all right. To touch on that too. So there are many different types of relationship coaches, and I wanna key in on this. All right. So I love that you mentioned, literally, you had a lot of friends during lockdowns, and a lot of it's the lack of communication and intimacy. But it's also like, you seeing friends who are like beautiful couples that may be on the brink of pulling apart, and you want to help that. So I'm curious because every relationship coach has their different focuses, and similarly also different biases. So for me as a relationship coach, I'm so aware of it, where I'm like, I've been through my monogamous and then open relating and then poly phases in my life. I'm like, I have to have a like Michaela Broom is someone who can understand that journey because she's been through something similar. So my question for you is like, what is your focus in terms of relationships? I only know
what will be my focus, do you mean?
What will be your focus? Yeah.
Look, I'm open to any format. I think I'm not going to discriminate in terms of who comes. But if I'm honest, I would prefer to work in the space of monogamy, monogamous relationships, because not that I want to just stay in the traditional realm, but I believe that's where, like, I understand that there's so many different layers and beautiful experiences with, you know, bringing in other people and having other relationships, as you've explained earlier. But I think that the beauty of actually knowing someone to the core of their soul and them knowing you and having done the work and equally having been through hell and back together, there's something so beautiful in that. And equally having that one life partner to see you through, to not grow old with, but to stay young with.
Yeah, beautiful.
And be able to bring out that inner child in each other and be playful and have fun. And, you know, like, I just think that it's so important in a relationship to maintain your individuality. And, you know, you still have your goals as an individual and they have theirs, but you support each other, you come together, and then you have your goals separate, like together as well as separate. You know, you have your interests outside of each other.
We're all on individual journeys together. I'm quoting Will Smith here, but yeah, it's where the biggest revelation for him was, and I literally, this is a piece of video where I share with everyone, my close friends as well as people who I coach. It's like, because the only person that can make us happy is ourselves, and we can't come to the other person with our empty cups, relying on them to make us happy. So to literally,
it's an inside job for sure.
It's an inside job, and we're all on our individual journeys together, and that's what a coupleship, that's what a relationship is. So for sure.
And I think that, like, to go back to answering your question, I would be open to, you know, other dynamics coming and joining, you know, whether or not they be gay or lesbian or non-binary. I would be open to it. I really would. But it'd have to be a monogamous relationship. I believe that that's the power in what I'm wanting to do, is really to bring those people closer to understanding themselves as individuals, and then equally closer to themselves, to each other as a couple, and helping them just, you know, step up into the next chapter of their lives, and equally giving them the tools to then equally apply to their everyday lives, so that they can just continue to flourish in their relationships together.
Beautifully languaged. Is that your first time describing that? Because that's beautiful.
It really was, yeah.
Soundbite that.
What happens when you improv?
yeah, you're speaking from the heart. That's
I am. I really.
That's way of communicating, really. So
yeah,
I love that.
You haven't got giggle mail yet.
I know. I feel like that's a challenge. I feel like we have to see a taste of that before we go. All right, let's head out.
Hilarious smell hasn't quite shown yet.
I mean, okay. I do want to, like, I love how you talked about, like, the inner child, because I think that's once a relationship develops and evolves to a certain level, that's a clear marker for that is when we can be our silly selves and we can be our inner child together. I think that's really beautiful.
It is. And you know, have you ever done the exercise of letting your inner child dictate what it wants to do for the day?
Not for a day. Okay. Although as an actor, I feel like we're big inner children. Like yeah. That's
if you do that, that's part of the process of self-love. And, like, you know, equally, when I did my coaching work with Sam, it was just let her choose what she wants to do. Let her choose what she wants to wear, what she wants to eat, where she wants to go. Just let her make those decisions for you and give her what she wants, and just see, you know, how you feel about it. And honestly, it was the most simplest thing, but it was so incredible. So, you know, speaking of the inner child, for anyone that's listening, if you've never done any, you know, inner work with your shadow self and, you know, with your child self, and you know, you don't really have a self-love care ritual that you know, apply to your everyday life, then choosing one day, just one day, to allow your inner child to make all the decisions for you is so cool.
I might have to experiment that. When I say might, it's a have to. Like,
Yeah.
that's a wonderful practice, I think.
What would you do?
I'll try that tomorrow. I'll keep you posted. I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
I feel like me and my inner child have a very healthy and good relationship.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I can tell you where my inner child does shine. My inner child definitely helped create my Monday night movies. I have a sacred space every Monday night, and it's like we've grown to be some of my best friends that we've been running this for 4 years now. So this is beautiful sacred space, and literally a lot of people have come through. About 200 people have come through, and we're
Wow.
constantly renewing and just like and reinventing what it is. But every Monday night we watch a movie, and it started from I rarely ever share this in public. Again, this is great, but we watched in I think it was 2019 when the Marvel Infinity War was about to come out. Big movie, like I'll get there.
I'm sure if I seen it, I would know it.
Yeah, there was Infinity War and Endgame. They were big. If you follow like the big movies, Endgame beat.
Oh yes, I did see Endgame. Yeah.
Yeah. So we worked out that we could watch all the 22 Marvel movies if we started mid-January, and we watched every week. And it was the biggest social experiment I ran in that year in 2019. And from that, by the end of it, we're like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Why don't we just keep continuing it? So then we opened it to just any movie, and we started watching a movie every week. Greatest
Cool.
social
So it's
practice.
kind of like a book club, but it's a movie club.
But a movie club, yeah. And during COVID times, it was like
Perfect timing.
perfect timing. I listened to Esther Perel. She's like one of my favorite.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, how amazing is she?
She's amazing.
Yeah, and so she's got a movie night that she does, and like she thanks them. It's like that's like my safe haven that I go to, and it's like what a beautiful place. Like the people that you talk to as well.
The community.
It's the community. It's my social fixture.
I
I have a burger, my ideal average day. I have a burger every day, and that feeds my inner child as well. There's a lot of things.
lucky you to have that appetite to have a burger every day. And that metabolism, sorry, not appetite.
I lean very plant-based. I've gone through my like vegetarian, like close to vegan phases, and then kind of come out of it. So I have a really healthy diet that yeah, I try to have we learned this in Unleash the Power Within on Health Day, but like my protein, my meal, like all we need is just a side dish of meat a day, and that's about how much I have, and that's the equivalent of like the meat in the burger, and that's it. So
Yeah.
like I've designed my life in such a way where it literally just feels perfect. It feels like that feeds my inner child, but it's something that brings me so much joy. It's so American, I know.
It is. Do you have a hot dog as well?
No hot dog.
Fruit meal, pizza slice.
I've gone through my taco stage. I like made tacos and
I love tacos. I love tacos.
yeah, I could have tacos every day too. That's another.
I'm gonna get the midnight munchies in a minute.
Hey, if we have tacos after this, I take full responsibility.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe the rest of my chai tea and a little cookie.
Yeah. If it's okay with you, I'd love to hear like what was like 2 or 3 discoveries when you had Inner Child Day. Like what did your inner child do that surprised you?
Honestly, so I did it when COVID was in the middle of COVID, so I couldn't do a lot. We had restrictions, obviously. So, but there were still cafes and restaurants that were open that you could do takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went and got, I put on a really pretty dress that I really liked, and it was colorful, and I did mismatch things. At the same time, they were like synchronized.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went and got an ice cream, and I went down to the beach, and I just had my ice cream on the beach, and I went down by this, the seashore, and kicked around and found seashells and went back and collected them, and I watched a cartoon when I came home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did things that, she really would have loved to have done. And
Mm.
yeah, I made myself a really beautiful spaghetti meatball meal that night.
Oh, gorgeous. It sounds
With,
really
with, with
filling.
no
Like,
wine. I had no wine.
yeah. It
And
sounds
I sat,
fulfilling for your
and
inner
I
child.
actually sat there and I had ice cream again. But I did it in
Yeah.
a way where I used to do it with my sister when we were younger. We used to like Neapolitan ice cream, and we
Oh,
used to mix it
yes.
all in together and then put Milo in and then put it in. We used to pretend that our coffee table was like an oven and we'd sit there and pretend.
So good. Yeah.
I pretty much did the whole ritual of doing that. And I was like, okay, now it's time to eat it when it's like mush.
Yo. Yeah.
So honestly, all I realized was that it was the simple things in life that brought me joy the most.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still on occasions buy Neapolitan because that does connect to me to my inner child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
They're
actually
pretty
found out I
flavors.
can't have too much dairy since then, so I can't do that, but I loved it for that day.
Yeah. Um, have you discovered the gluten-free, like dairy-free ice cream?
Yes, yes, I have. Love
Yeah.
it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would honestly recommend anyone that hasn't done that experiment to do it, because it really just brings you back to just realizing, wow, like this body has carried me for 33
Oh,
years. She's been through so much
yeah.
and she's here. She's right here. And
The child is
all
still
the things,
right there.
yeah, all the things that make her happy are just so simple. And it just
Mm.
brings you so much gratitude. And you just sit with this like such a tremendous amount of love for yourself and gratitude for what you've experienced, how far you've come, and where you are today.
I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
I I realize tomorrow it's a work day. I'm up in my dad's workshop and I'm driving to Shepperton and back. So
Yeah,
my
do
inner
it on the
child's
day you have off.
yeah. So with the day that I have off, which is probably sometime next week, I'll let you know. But I'll do a whole
Yeah, please
child
do.
day
I'm curious.
and see what comes up. I imagine there's gonna be cartoons. I imagine the first question I was gonna ask you was like, oh, how much ice cream did you eat? Yeah.
Twice in one day.
Twice in one day. So I imagine there's gonna be ice cream at some point for sure.
Yeah,
And there's gonna be
my favorite
burgers.
food, ice
Yeah.
cream.
Ice cream?
Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I love anything with some sort of nut. So like hazelnut, almonds,
Nice. Yeah.
chocolate.
Choices.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the vanilla base, but then I like chocolate with almonds. So like Magnum almonds,
Great
or something
choices.
with hazelnut. Yeah.
Yeah. I do love the hazelnut and almond sprinkles.
Oh yeah.
My favorite has to be cookies and cream. It's
Oh, yum. I
yeah.
love Ferrero Rocher when I used to be able to go to Cold Rock, get the
Yep.
smash with the,
That
bit,
is my
bit-
favorite special occasion chocolate. My mom still gets me Ferrero Rochers for like whenever I visit. So, yeah.
it's always going to be in, isn't it? It's always going to be something that people love.
There's so many ways. This is very inner child as well. There's so many different ways you can have Ferrero Rocher, and like I don't know if you went through that process, but I would eat the outside, and then you have the
Yeah, really
just the
slowly.
wafer, and then you eat half of that, and then you got the chocolate in
It's
there.
like when you eat a Malteser, you can just slowly bite the whole thing, and then you have the malt, just you suck on the malt and it comes down to nothing. I did the same thing with that. So yeah.
Yeah. So you're going through layers, like taking your time with it.
Oh,
I okay, you shared about inner child, and that brought me to something I wanted to share. There was a story. It'll come back to me, but it was something that I was just like I hadn't thought about in ages. Like this is a beautiful thing that.
oh. So tell me,
Hmm,
I guess from your perspective, with the launch of the book that's coming up in the next few weeks, I believe it's on the 17th of March, right?
that's the date. Yeah, I've been telling my friends 16th or 17th because our 17th in Australia is their
The
16th.
16th there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me, are you fully prepared to receive what the on flow, like we're in the flow, right?
Yeah.
We've accepted coming into this chapter, we've done it, the work's
Mm,
done. We're now in that flow state. Are you ready to see what the universe is going to bring?
I'm so ready. I was born ready. There,
Yes.
there, there are two levels to it. So I'm acknowledging the beautiful
Love that.
space of the unknown, right? Where
Yeah.
it's literally it's the unconscious competence where I don't know exactly what's going to come to me, all right? But I do know on, we've done the work. Like I do
Yeah.
know on so many different levels. On the marketing and branding, I literally will be using the book as like it's my new business card. Where it'll be like, hey,
Wow.
here's like you want to get to know me, here's the book. And for people that I've been serving and close friends and clients, I'll be like, here's the book, like grab yourself a copy. It's gonna be like $1 or $2, like something ridiculously cheap when it comes out. Like grab a copy, and they're gonna learn about things that it's such a vulnerable share, but I've never shared on a public forum before, like my blueprint of my life. So here,
Yeah.
like my life abridged, the love, the lost love, and the lessons behind them.
And it was beautifully written and said, and you were very vulnerable and transparent. And equally, I think you touched on a lot of points that I don't think that like I don't think society like welcome those conversations as much as
Mm.
what you would think that they would. I mean, gay marriage has been approved, but it's still not something that's talked about as much. So I think there was a lot of topics, if I might say,
Yeah,
that's
please.
probably,
Yeah.
what's the word that I'm looking for? My brain's
Well, it talks
right
about
word.
gender fluidity. It talks about I believe, and this is part of my identity, and you can read the chapter, you can see the journey, but we all have a masculine and feminine energy, and to really address it and say, hey, look, like it's a vulnerable share to go, well, I'm a public figure, and a lot of people know me as a he and a him, and I do identify as a man, but at the same time I also identify as a male body two spirit, where I'm fully connected with feminine and I'm fully connected with masculine. And just to have that awareness it's a wonderful thing. Like people who practice tantra will get it, will have a taste of that.
Yeah,
But to really go, hey, look, there is that duality in all of this. And I believe that a lot of people are two spirits and they don't even realize that they are that. So
that's beautiful.
hmm.
Thank you
So
for sharing.
yeah, my pleasure. So that is shared. That's a vulnerable share in the book. The love and the loss is a vulnerable share in there. The polyamory is a vulnerable share. So there's a number of key points that I'm just going. Here's my heart.
You think,
Please meet it with compassion.
do you think that your heart has found this person that you're telling me that you've known for about a week and a half? Do you think that your heart knows that this might be
My
different?
my heart knows that she is a beautiful connection. There's a soulmate connection in that. But I'm not a prophet. I cannot say that how far it'll go. I've had enough losses in my account where I know that, hey, I can't predict the future. Like,
Yeah, you don't put all your eggs in the one basket too soon.
yeah, yeah. It would be like a 2, 3 year connection before I go, all right, this is life. This can be lifelong. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Is that a limitation that you're putting on it though? It
I'm
needs to be
not.
two,
I'm
three
not.
years,
I'm
or
just I
or
think
that's just
all right.
your
There's
languaging around that.
I love that. All right.
Just,
So there's the realist in me that knows that my former love of life lasted 3 years and 10 days. So until I pass that threshold with someone, will I go, yeah, this is gonna be a long term, like lifelong relationship. Then on the spiritual side of things, I've met people who I felt, yeah, I can. It's just literally within the first, I would say, first meeting. There's a Japanese word for it where it's like I hadn't known you yet, but I loved you before I even met you.
oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I've had that multiple
It's like
times.
your twin flame. Have you met your twin flame before?
It's like a twin flame. What do you know about twin flames? What is a twin flame for?
Ryan is definitely my twin flame.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
What's a twin flame to you?
A twin flame is, yeah, someone that you've known from a past life, a connection that you have with someone that is just, I guess, indescribable. And, intellectually, as well as emotionally, as well as sexually, you ignite each other. And when you are apart, there's a really big sense of loss and grief when you are apart. And we have been apart.
Yes.
And And I've been apart and separated from partners in the past, and it was just never that as profound of an experience that I'd ever had. And I think that's how I know he is my twin flame. Where when my soul met his for the first time, it was like pretty much that Japanese saying that you were just saying then. It was like I knew him my whole life.
Yeah.
And it felt safe. It felt like home.
That's beautiful.
But I can be my true self. I can be vulnerable. I can be seen with all my wounds, all my trauma, all my experiences, and just be accepted for who I am.
That is gorgeous. That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So
that's what I would say a twin flame is.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
It sounds like a soulmate relationship for me. That's how I
believe so. I believe so, but I believe that it goes even deeper than that, because I think, like, I have friends that I've had, girlfriends that I've had in my life for so long, and I would say that that's a soulmate connection.
Yeah, beautiful.
Soul sister.
Yeah.
But to have that level of intimacy with your partner and just that vulnerability, and anything kind of goes, and just like, let's see where this goes, and from a sexual perspective, and just opening up the can of worms, and just trusting each other and seeing where things go is just, it's beautiful.
I think that's one of the most rewarding things about long-term relationships too. Like,
and that's where I find
treasure. Yeah.
That's where I find that monogamy is so special in comparison, because you go through those ups and downs. I
agree with you that where you have it's years and decades of shared love and experience that they compound over time. It's a wonderful thing that you can only have in a long-term, lifelong relationship. So I want to touch on the twin flames. I will say, like, whatever you shared with me, keep that.
Yeah,
that is yours. I don't want to yuck your yum. All right, that's it's a beautiful thing. But segue. This is just my perspective, and is what I learned from Master Co. So this is like the spiritual guide of Tony Robbins. But he talks about twin flames, and twin flames come in many forms. So yours 1,000% valid, and that's true for yours. Keep that. All right. He talks about how twin flames can be there are many different forms of it. And for example, two people can, so whether you believe in reincarnation or not.
I do.
Yes, you believe? All right. Two people can hate each other so much. No problem. And I'll just touch on this. And that trauma bond that they can have, where they just hate each other so much, would manifest where they can reincarnate in their twin flames, and they'll reincarnate as conjoined twins.
Oh yes, I've heard that as well.
Yeah. Yes. And then you're like, all right, so there's a reason why
dark and the light, and the light to the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's important that twin flames are beautiful, but they're flames as well. And so we just have to be cautious and careful of that, where we meet with compassion and have that acceptance, forgiveness. And when we've done the inner work, we can do that for ourselves.
It's the mirror. You're actually the mirror for the other person. So if the other person is potentially has a trauma, you're a mirror for that person. You may highlight something, and that makes them recognize, oh wow, okay, that's where I need to do the work.
That's it. All right, we're gonna start to wrap this up. Before we go, the last question I always love is that, what's the one message that you want to give to your audiences, to give to the people?
I think I've kind of touched on it already a little bit, but I'll thank you for allowing me to finish on this beautiful platform with you, and end on this note. I think the most important thing for people to do is to really acknowledge themselves on a daily basis, and really tune into themselves and their own intuition, and feeling what they feel, honoring their truth, speaking their truth, and doing things on a daily basis with some level of self-care rituals. So whether or not that's journaling, whether or not that's going for a walk and being in nature, or going to the beach and cleansing your soul in the salt water, or going and taking yourself for a coffee date, or going to the gym, or doing something, make sure that, even in the first hour or two of your day, that it's a non-negotiable for you, and you're dedicating that time and space for yourself, because it sets you up for your day.
Yes.
Every single day. But I just think it's really important that whatever it is that is going on for us in our lives, whether or not it be within our relationship, at work, or with our children, or with our family members or friends, whatever's happening, it's always really important to see equally how we're showing up to those places and to those spaces and to those energies, and what vibration are we at, what is it that we need to change within ourselves or heal, what trauma are we still carrying, and really identify all of those points. And you might need assistance in that space to initially identify it, but then, you know, what I teach people to, you know, actually have the tools themselves to move through that energy and just really work on that self-love journey and be able to free themselves of years of trapped trauma, basically. And I just think that, you know, I'm here to help people heal as individuals and as couples. And I think the message is, it starts with you.
It does start with you. Yeah, gorgeous. I resonate completely. Starting your day and just giving that yourself that first sacred hour, first 3 hours just to yourself to just, you know, reset, come back to that place of love and compassion, and then meet all your relationships, whether it's your clients or your coworkers or your family and friends and kids. In that way, I think it's such an
And meditation, I didn't say meditation, but meditation's been huge for me. I do guided meditation. I haven't quite mastered how to block out all the head noise, because I have too many things and so many directions I'm pulled in. So I love you know, guided meditations, and you know, I find them really useful in between meetings. Sometimes I'll do it, and it just helps you to reset, you know.
I'm a huge for meditation. I practice meditation maybe once or twice a day, and
You do guided or not?
I do both. So I use the Calm app and it has some guided, but I also really love just the time meditation where I'll put some an ambient sound like rain and just let it wash over me, and that brings me back to my happy place when I was a kid. So
what are some of the points that you equally would like to finish on today, Chris?
Beautiful. A lot of it I've shared already on this. This is a podcast of abundance. I would say that everything is connected, and just to reiterate, like how we are part of this great consciousness, and so we're part of this. We have God within us and without us, and so just to be in surrender. I think that's the most important thing.
100%.
Yeah, be in surrender. I remember now the story that I wanted to share when you talked about your inner child. And yeah, it's like a 30-second story.
No worries.
So I got stranded in Cupernook during the Sydney floods.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was heading to Taste of Love, which is this beautiful, lush, like tantric space. And God had a different lesson for me. And I got stranded in Cupernook, and this elderly couple, great grandparents, took me in for 1 week. Like I think it was about 10 days. And what I found from that was the level of simplicity and the level of love and care that they have for each other and for just a fellow stranger. But also, it was so simple. They had a roof over their head, they had a dog, and they had breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, and dinner at 6. That's it. And they were happy and they were so content. They watched a little more TV than I wanted to watch, but besides that, they were so like content and happy. And I was just like, this is all you need, really. Like a loving companion, roof over your head, a dog, and a breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, dinner at 6. And I was just like, wow, like if that's the takeaway for that 10 days there, like that's a wonderful takeaway. So,
oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Sharing
Thank you for having me on your platform and allowing me to, I guess, unravel all the different layers of the chapter, and equally, you know, everything else that we've touched on. We've touched on a lot. We've gone on different tangents and then we've come back.
It's been so profound. I champion and celebrate you for being the youngest in the Inspired Connections book.
Thank you. Thank you.
As far as we know, I believe you are the youngest. And yeah, I'm really excited for our book launch.
So much for having me, Chris.
My pleasure.
Truly grateful, and yeah, feel really blessed to have been able to equally learn more about you and understand your journey. And yeah, thank you for sharing. Having me.
We'll talk more after this, but yeah, I would love to check out Human Design, because even when you talk about head noise, I'm like, I bet you have an open like ajna center where it's, yeah. We'll talk more about that.
We definitely will.
Let's chat on. We'll collaborate. Thank you all for viewing in. You guys
Thank
are
you,
amazing,
Alex.
and we'll see you in the next one. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Melissa.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.
Blessings.